This is fine.
Are you unsupported?
I'm unsupported.
Do you feel unsupported?
Yeah, always.
Oh, no. All right, let's get going here then. And welcome back to another episode of the Media Boat Podcast, your weekly episode of Talk Shop on movies, TV, music, and video games, not necessarily in that order. My name is Mike. His name is Matt.
My name is Matt. His name is Mike. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Media Boat Podcast. It is June the 10th, 2023. This is episode 387. And we have a lot to talk about. Hoo boy, things are heating up in every industry right now. We've got more strike votes. We've got video game conferences. We've got movies stuff.
We got thoughts on everything.
Yeah, we got thoughts on everything. Things are happening in the world. So let's get into it.
We're going to try and keep it to a 2-hour show.
We'll see.
So we'll
That's what
start.
we thought last week, and we did it at a cool hour 40. So who knows, honestly.
Same thing. I know. The week before we went to 2:30, but yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Anyways, let's get right into it. We start, as we always do, with the music section.
Yes.
We start the music section with the Billboard, and we start the Billboard with the Hot 100.
Yeah.
And your hottest song in the land is "Last Night" by Morgan Wallen.
He won't go away.
At number 2, "Karma"
Hey.
by Taylor Swift, featuring Ice Spice.
Yeah, specifically the Ice Spice remix of this song is the one that is a number 2 hit. I love the original one, and I'm happy to see Karma here. But the Ice Spice version of it is a worse version of the song. I'm just going to say, I don't dislike Ice Spice. I think the verse is fine.
Well,
but the momentum of the original song works way better as a single to me, and it's sad to see that that's not the one that she is putting out as a single.
so this is we're all going to check it out because it's the new release.
Right.
And it was the hyped up one by Taylor.
Yeah.
So next week, we're going to see it drop.
We'll get to it in the Billboard 200, but yes, it was because of that re-release of Midnights that this is here. But yeah, I'm so happy to see Taylor have a real bop on the top 5, though.
Coming in at 3, "Flowers" by Miley Cyrus. At 4, "All My Life" by Lil Durk.
Yeah.
Featuring J. Cole.
Mm-hmm.
So he's there.
He's there.
And rounding out your top 5, "Calm Down" by Rima and Selena
Hey.
Gomez.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. As for your album chart, your Billboard 200, at number 1, it is "Midnights" by Taylor Swift.
Yes, getting that re-release bump after the Till Dawn edition. Enough Taylor Swift fans, enough Swifties stormed the streaming networks to get this up to number 1.
And purchased in person to get to number 1.
That too.
But that means she is out of the Morgan sandwich because at number 2, "One Thing at a Time" by Morgan Wallen.
No one wants to be in a Morgan sandwich.
But at 3, "Almost Healed" by Lil Durk. So he's there in both the 100 and the 200.
Yep.
Coming in at 4, "SOS" by SZA. Still in that top 5.
Still hanging out.
And rounding out your top 5, as mentioned, it's a sandwich. So you got to put the butt and bread at the end.
The butt is right.
"Dangerous," the double album by Morgan Wallen.
SOS is wild to think about still being here. It came out in December of last year.
Well, Midnights came out in October of last year.
That's true, but it's not like SOS. This is like a new version of SOS. No, it's the same record.
And before you angrily attack our emails, yes, "Dangerous," the double album, came out before even those.
Well, yeah, I know, but that's not interesting because we know that he's the reason why Dangerous is back is because he has a new record on the thing, and so everybody's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna stream them back to back forever because I love Terrible People."
Because,
what are you gonna do?
I mean, you're gonna listen to new releases.
Hopefully, what we got?
I don't know what you're listening to, but here are the new releases.
A lot this week.
Starting with "Let There Be Music" by Bonnie Doon. And no relation to Bonnie Bear.
No, different.
No. This is Bonnie Doon.
Bonnie.
Okay. "Emotional Contracts" by Deer Tick. Next, "Off Planet" by Django. Then we have "Peace Like a River" by Governed Mule. I believe that's Government Mule.
Yeah.
Sugar the Bruise by Hand Habits. Michael by Killer Mike.
Okay, big deep breath before this next one.
I thought we were going to talk like how Killer Mike is now putting out a new album.
Oh,
That's where you're going with. Like,
no,
the
no.
deep
I
breath.
mean, you're gonna need the deep breath for the next album name.
Oh, because it's one of our favorites.
Yes.
Petrodragonic Apocalypse, or Dawn of Eternal Night, an annihilation of planet Earth and the beginning of merciless damnation. By none other than me about favorite, King Gizzard and the Wizard Lizard.
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 Wizard
Lizards.
It's a different thing.
King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Are you excited to listen to all of Petrodragonic Apocalypse or Dawn of Eternal Night, and Annihilation of Planet Earth and the beginning of merciless damnation?
I mean, is this number 6 of the 6 albums they were going to put out?
I don't know, but it certainly feels like it is.
It's definitely a mouthful of 6 albums.
Yeah, jeez.
All right. We also have Black Elvis 2 by Cool Keith with 2 Ks.
Yeah.
The Good Witch by Maisie Peters. In Times New Roman ... by Queens of the Stone Age.
Yes, that Queens of the Stone Age. They're back.
There's also Day of the Doug by Sun Volt. And lastly, King of a Land by Yusuf and Cat Stevens.
So Cat Stevens
goes by Yusuf.
So I think what it is that Cat Stevens was known as Cat Stevens for a while and recorded under that name. He then decided to refer to himself as Yusuf Islam for a while. And then now it seems like they're interchangeable. So he's credited as both.
Okay.
He decided okay, some people still call me Cat Stevens, so I guess I'm going to just accept this. And I go by both names now. So that's how he's credited.
You don't get double pay though.
No.
So I've heard.
Same guy.
Okay.
Same guy. Who knows? Any Cat Stevens fans want to comment and let us know what's going on, email us.
All right. Well, let's get into some music news.
Yeah.
And just like us, BBR Muisc Group has decided to drop one of its artists its lexicon, just like us.
Just like us?
Yep, just like us.
Okay.
Because I think this is officially where we're going to no longer talk about Jimmy Allen.
Yeah, I think this is probably it. I just wanted to include this here because, hey, actual repercussions happens. And we love when repercussions happen.
Yes. The label, BBR Muisc Group, confirmed to Variety late Friday that they have dropped country singer Jimmy Allen after a second woman sued him for sexual assault. Quote, BBR Muisc Group has dissolved its relationship with Jimmy Allen. He is no longer an active artist on its roster. End quote. So, as mentioned, the country singer was previously put on suspension by the label, as well as his agency and manager, in the wake of being sued by his former female manager for sexual assault and battery.
Yeah.
This is a second person coming forward and issuing a lawsuit.
Yeah, that's new this week. Kind of corroborating the existing case that already was talked about in the media. It's just it's like when they start coming out of the woodwork like this, then that you know that there's a huge problem. Because the classic saying is like when you hear like 2 or 3 people speak up, you have to think about there's probably like dozens more that haven't yet. Like those stories don't come out of nowhere. Like there's got to be some sort of pattern here. If you really want to know details that are out there, it involves him allegedly taping a intimate encounter without the partner knowing. Doesn't seem great for Jimmy Allen. It seems like his reputation has like completely gone away. Here's my question. Do you think that if Apple TV pursues a second season of My Kind of Country, they get a new host?
I think they put Casey Musgraves on the list.
Oh, that would be good. I could see that. Although she's already a producer on the show.
Yeah, but you get her, Mickey Guyton, and Orville Peck.
Yeah, just have those 3.
Just those 3.
Yeah, that's a pivot. Unless Casey's too busy, which could happen. But yeah, Jimmy Allen's not returning to that show, nor is he returning to a whole lot. We probably just won't see him for a very long time. But yeah, man, it's good to, like I said, good to see repercussions. Good to see these stories coming out and this being like the conversation happening about this. And man, yeah, just Jimmy Allen, just what a disappointment. What a huge disappointment.
Speaking of huge disappointments.
No, not really. I think this is the second story. This is largely good news.
Well, no, according to Twitter, it was a huge disappointment that Taylor Swift actually sang Haunted in Detroit, and only a select people were there to hear it.
Hey, you know what? That's the thing with all our secret songs on the Eras tour. You just have to accept. I missed it, and I'm just screwed. Like, I saw a TikTok joke that was pretty good about the SoFi dates since the last dates of the US tour.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, when Taylor runs out of secret songs, they're just going to be rocking out to one of the demo, like the voice recording demos from the 1989 deluxe version. Like, yep. She's going to get down to that one.
Well, before she gets down to that,
yeah.
Taylor Swift has revealed the full track list for Speak Now, Taylor's version, including her 2 duet partners would be on the previously unrecorded vault tracks.
Yes, we now know what the vault tracks will be.
Yep, they are none other than Paramore's Hailey Williams and Fall Out Boy.
Yeah, Fall Out Boy is here.
Not specifically like Pete Wentz and Fall Out Boy, but actual like full Fall Out Boy.
Yeah.
So Taylor Swift wrote on social media, quote, "I'm very," in all caps, "excited to show you the back cover of Speak Now," my version, Taylor's version, including the vault tracks and collaboration with Hailey Williams from Paramore and Fall Out Boy. Since Speak Now was all about my songwriting, I decided to go to the artists who I feel influenced me most powerfully as a lyricist at that time and ask them to sing on the album. They're so cool and generous for agreeing to support my version of Speak Now. I recorded this album when I was 32 and still growing up, and can't wait to unveil it to you all on 7/7.
Of course, that is a reference to Innocent on Speak Now, 32, and still growing up now. But yeah, this is kind of a retribution for all those Swifties who are like, oh yeah, she was a secret emo kid in the 2000s. Yes, we know that about Taylor.
I don't think that was a secret.
This is not a secret. No, yeah, she said she's been on the record in interviews before saying that Fall Out Boy and Paramore and bands from that era greatly influenced her songwriting. In fact, I remember people talking about when like Love Story and You Belong With Me were singles. They were like, oh, like she's taking this like very emo style songwriting, confessional songwriting, and pairing it with country pop. And it's kind of true is that like that was kind of one of her innovations early on with Taylor. And so yeah, like this is kind of payoff for all of that. It's cool to see. One little nugget of Swiftie lore that, or I guess Swiftie / Paramore fan lore is
Paralore,
if you will. The song that Hailey Williams is duetting on is called "Castles Crumbling," and a lot of people pointed out, wait a minute, a year before Speak Now, Paramore was touring with Taylor, and it's been known that Hailey and her were friends at the time. And there is a song on the 2009 Paramore record, Brand New Eyes, called Brick by Boring Brick, which has the chorus as a chorus that references building a castle. And so people are like, are these songs linked in some way? Is this song about Hailey? Also, to add to Swiftie lore, one of her other good friends at the time was Emma Stone. And one of the songs in the vault, the other vault song here is called When Emma Falls in Love. And everybody thinks that this is a song about Emma Stone.
And Andrew Garfield?
No, I think this predates the Andrew Garfield stuff by a couple of years. Because like I said,
before the Spider-Man
released this in 2010.
Spider-Man was 2011.
So yeah, so this is before they would have met, I guess.
No, it would have been while they met on set.
Filming?
Yeah, while they were on set.
So who knows? Obviously, we won't know a whole lot of details until these vault songs are released, because unlike a lot of the previous vault songs on the re-records, these we have largely not heard of. We have not heard these. Maybe bits and pieces of them, but largely these 3 songs that I'm referencing are completely new. So we'll see. We'll see what they're about. We'll see if any of these theories are true on July 7th.
Let's see here. That is 4 weeks away.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we're on the 10th here. So yeah, 4 weeks away.
So look forward to that.
We'll be listening to that and giving our thoughts on it when it arrives.
Speaking of thoughts.
Speaking of thoughts, did you listen to anything?
So no, I was doing some more podcast catch up this week because there's a lot of video game things happening, and so I was occupied doing that. So I did not get to any of the new releases.
All right, I got to 2 of them.
Okay,
surprisingly, no. But that's also because they're both short, each about like 35 minutes.
That's good.
Even though there's like 14 and 13 tracks on them,
they're quick.
They're very quick. They're very short tracks.
Well, that's good.
Yes. So we'll start. We'll go in one direction, and we'll go back in the other.
I see what you did there.
Yes, because we're going to start with the One Directioner.
Niall.
Not the one you're thinking of.
Not even that one you're.
Not
thinking
even
of.
that one.
And not that third one you're thinking of. The 4th one you're thinking of.
Yes, Niall Horan. Don't worry, we won't get to the 5th one.
Yeah, no one knows what he's up to. I don't even remember his name. Let's see. So there's Harry, there's Niall, there's Zane.
Yes.
There's
No. It's Harry, Zane, then Niall.
Okay, and then
the rest. And the rest.
The rest.
All right. So Niall Horan, following in Harry Styles' album that came out last year, Harry's House.
Yeah.
Has put out his own summer album called The Show. And
Louis Tomlinson. I got there.
Louis?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got there. I feel like we're still missing one, but it's fine. I figured out at least one of the ones we missed.
And the rest.
Yeah. Okay, keep going.
All right. So yeah, he put out a new album called The Show. This is his, I want to say, 2nd album now.
Probably. That sounds right.
And it's still feels like a compilation album of he doesn't know where he wants to go.
Yeah.
It's a lot of both like pop and ballads and some stuff in between. Definitely feels like he takes a lot of stuff, a lot of inspiration from Harry's House from last year to put into this album. But it also feels like he's trying a lot of different things. Some of it works, some of it doesn't.
Mm.
So it's a really, really, really strong album of a mileage may vary.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff in the beginning kind of works. It kind of feels like if you listen to Harry's House and The Show, they kind of mesh together. Put them into a playlist blender. It's like, oh yeah, these guys were in a band together, and they are kind of like have those good voices, those same kind of vibes,
similar sensibilities.
Yeah, but it's not a full album. It's not. I don't feel like the full like through line through the album. It's as we mentioned before, especially with Harry's House, he goes for the singles. It's rarely single based. It's really like song based and not like a full album. So mileage may vary for Niall Horan, The Show.
Okay, all right. It's not like I'll personally probably just skip it, but yeah. I wonder if there are people who are out there who are like, I'm waiting for Niall's record.
Well, it's here.
That person probably exists.
Now let's go to the complete opposite side of the spectrum for that.
Yeah.
For someone who knows what they want.
Yes.
Has put out several Grammy Award-winning albums.
Yeah.
Has put on, last time we saw her was with Ryan Johnson.
Right. In, Glass Onion.
Glass Onion.
Kind of a Renaissance woman. She's everywhere. She's acting. She's writing sci-fi novels. Mm-hmm. She's still doing music, and she's just like out there living her life. Janelle Monae is who we're talking about.
Yep, and she put out an album called The Age of Pleasure. And
with a name like that, you know what you're getting into.
Yes. This is, I know you don't want me to say baby making music.
It is a Media Boat podcast staple.
Yes.
That I hate. But you insist on saying it.
Okay, so it's not technically baby making music, but
no, especially because it seems like suggested in these videos that she's not doing it with anybody that is going to create a baby through their lovemaking. There's going to be extra steps involved.
It's just babies with extra steps. But instead, it's the feeling of love,
Sure.
the like being in love, like wanting to be in love, like those initial feelings, kind of like with Casey Musgrave's album, Golden Hour, with even Taylor Swift's album, Lover, where it's all about feeling in love, that passion, that pleasure, the age of pleasure.
Sure.
And it's a full album. There is a single through line. Each track bumps up to the next one to where you don't want to skip around.
Cool.
It goes start to finish, and you feel like it's a night on the town with Janelle Monae, and it's a pleasure night for her.
She's having some fun.
Yeah, she's having some fun.
Yeah.
Going some places, experimenting with people, getting all these different feelings. At one point, it feels like she's at a dinner party and just like is talking to random, like all these different people, but in song verse too.
All right.
So it's real cool. It's real cool. It's real creative. It's definitely a full album. So like if you start this, just go from start to finish. It feels like a good trip into a day or a night with Janelle Monae.
So I have a question. So one, are you a longtime fan? Have you listened to her previous records before a whole lot, or is this you're kind of coming into Janelle's music here?
See here, I was a fan of her when she did the ESPYs in like 10 years ago.
Yeah. Why I ask is because this seems like a bit of a departure for her, because her last few records were very much built to be in this sci-fi world that she created. They were about like very highfalutin sci-fi concepts about like androids and what it was to be human and stuff like that.
Oh no, there's
Seems
a song
like she's departing from that.
Oh no, there's a song on here that's just straight up, I want you to kiss me on my neck. I want you to leave a hickey right there.
So it seems like she's going more literal, more grounded, more about like personal relationships. She's kind of out of the sci-fi zone here. That's interesting. Do you think that makes sense as a pivot for her? Like, or is it even a pivot? Because I feel like there were still love songs and songs about sex on those records. It's just that it was kind of in that universe. And here's just like, we don't need to do that anymore.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's more of just a continuation of that outside of like kind of like a growing up, coming of age, even though she's our age.
Yeah, if not like maybe a year older or something. Like, I don't know. She's around. She's in the ballpark. Yeah.
Yeah. Where it's out of like you said, the sci-fi stage of like the reason people delve into sci-fi is because they want to escape from the current world that they're in.
Yeah. Although nowadays it seems like the world is becoming a sci-fi novel, and we need to escape from that as fast as possible.
No, you're thinking of Escape from New York, which is a sci-fi movie.
Oh God, yeah.
Which is a sequel to Escape from LA, which is also a sci-fi movie.
Yeah. Speaking of, like, geez, shout out to everybody on the East Coast right now dealing with those wildfire fumes.
Yes, us in California can't wait to experience that in October.
God, yeah, no, it'll be here too. But yeah, like, stay safe, stay inside. Wear some masks outside. You got them. You've probably still got a stash of them in a box somewhere in your bedroom. Go dig that out of your closet and wear those outside, because you don't want to be breathing that smoke.
It's like that old like Twitter joke roams around where you pull out a face mask from your pocket and remember the good old times as you wander the wastelands of New York.
Seriously, it's how it looks out there. Geez, it looks like Fallout 4 out there. Or New Vegas, actually, was the one with kind of like the orange tint.
Yes.
It just looks like New Vegas out there. But all joking aside, stay safe. Yeah, like protect yourself with masks if you have them.
Yes, stay inside. Listen to The Age of Pleasure.
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, you recommend this?
Yeah, I recommend it. Yeah, I had a good time with it.
Yeah, I'm definitely.
It's very explicit warning on there.
We watched the same video. We know what to expect. The video for what is that song?
Kiss My Neck.
No. The one with the video. I don't remember.
Anyways.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll definitely check this out. Oh, real briefly, I caught up on some stuff from the previous week. I listened to the Foo Fighters record.
Yes.
I agree with everything you said.
Perfect.
It feels like a return to form. I especially like the real passion in those last two songs. It really feels like a cathartic, a release in a way.
Well, especially that last one, the teacher.
Yeah, geez.
Where it's like, I'm going to take what you taught me and
it's
go forward.
Yeah, it's surprisingly affecting. Like, I don't think if somebody told me, like, you will be emotionally affected by a Foo Fighters song at the beginning of the year, I'd be like, hell no, I won't. And yet here I am. I was like, wow. And yeah, here we are.
And yet here we are.
And so I really enjoyed it. I don't know if it's something I'm going to return to a lot, but they did the assignment. They knew what they needed to do, and they made a record that's actually felt like really heartfelt, and good for them. So I enjoyed it.
I'm glad you listened to it.
Yeah, it's cool. All right, let's move on to the section I'm most excited to talk about today.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about here because it's video game season, and that means it's E3. Well, is what we would have said.
It's Key3.
It's Key3.
Keighley.
Jeff Keighley.
Jeff Keighley's 3.
Keighley.
It's the Summer Game Fest is what it's officially called.
Yes. But before we get to that, we have new releases.
We do.
Starting with Dordawn. For everything. If you can play it, you can pronounce it.
If you pronounce it, you can play it.
That's up for everything. We also have Jack Jean for the Switch. Layers of Fears.
Which I believe is a remake of Layers of Fear.
For the PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC, so it's an HD.
Yep.
HD. You can call it HD. 4K? Remaster?
It's on current gen platforms, is what you can say.
Okay, unlike this next title, which is titled Pixel Ripped 1978.
I don't know.
For the PS5 and PC.
I think 1978. I think video games.
That's why the pixels ripped from it.
It's Space Invaders.
There's also Park Beyond for PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC. And lastly, in your other wide release, F1 23. Or is it F123?
No, it's F123.
I know, but yes. That's for everything but the Switch.
Yeah.
That's your Formula One racing game.
Yeah, sorry, Formula One fans who have a Switch, only you're out of luck.
All right. So let's get into the news then. And the big news 3-hour press conference.
2 hour.
2 hour. Well, I'm killing like the preamble post show that I watched for 3 hours for Summer Games Fest.
Summer Game Fest. The game is singular.
The game is singular.
For whatever reason. I think Jeff Keighley messed up there. It should just be Games Fest. I feel like most people would say that that's what it is. So Summer Game Fest, this is its third year. It started in 2020 as kind of a Jeff Keighley from home kind of presentation. Now this is the first year they did it in person. And I do think you got a little bit of energy from the crowds. But at the same time, it felt a little like a throwback to me for a few reasons. One, there are no women on stage, which was like, what the hell? Are we in 2004? What's happening? And then as for what was actually shown, not a whole lot of big surprises. It was a lot of known quantities.
We did get a couple release dates that were still on the bubble.
A couple release dates that I think, are good. A couple of games that people did not know were in development. Depending who you are, you might be excited for. But generally speaking, I think there was a kind of a low-key vibe to this whole thing. A lot of people just were like, well, that happened. So let's go through the highlights here.
All right. So starting with one of the big highlights.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yes.
Got a date.
So
of next year.
This is what they wrapped the show. This was their one last thing. They showed a long cutscene / gameplay presentation. It looks like that first Final Fantasy VII. This continues the story of that. One of the great moments was after they announced that it would be on 2 discs. You heard somebody in the audience go, 2 discs, which was a wonderful moment. It really is a throwback to the 2 Blu-ray discs. To think about having to switch discs in the middle of the game. You haven't had to do that in 2 decades.
Well, to be fair, this Final Fantasy VII did originally do that, and the second disc was the open world,
right?
And the first disc was fully Midgard. So you had to put the first disc, then go to the second disc, and then go back to the first disc.
So it looks like this game will also carry on that kind of structure. People are expecting there to be an open world segment.
Yes.
To bring that over from the original game.
There's definitely going to be an open world, kind of like flying everywhere. It's where you meet Sid.
Right. So if you like Final Fantasy VII and you like what they did with the world with the last game, this continues where that left off.
And if you can't wait for Final Fantasy VII and then the second incarnation, Final Fantasy 16
right
comes out next Week after.
Week after next.
Week
So
after
yeah,
next.
2 weeks until we get to talk about some, 3 weeks probably.
Yes.
So we talk about some Final Fantasy 16. But in the meantime, yeah, that 7 Rebirth looks okay, and people should get ready to get excited for that.
But if you're not into Final Fantasy and you own a PlayStation exclusive, for now, as we've seen, Spider-Man 2, which had a big reveal 2 weeks ago for PlayStation,
right?
In their summer showcase, got a release date this time for Summer Games Fest, and sure enough, it's another October release date, October 20th.
Yeah, previous to this, they had said it was going to be a fall date. They didn't want to lock it down, but here we go with the actual release date, October 20th. This is sooner than I thought. I honestly had this as a late November, early December, because I thought they would want to hit right before the holiday season. But no, this is early. So how excited are you for Spider-Man 2?
That is already my birthday gift.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Perfect timing for you.
We also had an announcement for a new Prince of Persia game.
Yeah.
Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown.
This was a bit of a swerve because you had a couple days before this, some rumors were spreading about another remake of The Sands of Time, being a project that Ubisoft was working on in secret. So that's why I thought this was going to be initially, but no, this is a brand new game and is a side-scroller game in the spirit of the original Prince of Persia games. So they say that there will be a focus on the side-scrolling action with the same kind of smooth, fluid animation from the original games. I think it's a good pivot for them because Ubisoft, the story about them for the last few years is open world fatigue and towers upon towers. Doing something different, a side scroller, I think is smart for the franchise and probably smart for Ubisoft as they're trying to probably get away from that. We'll probably see more of this and other things that Ubisoft has when they do their presentation, which I believe is Monday.
Right, their full Ubisoft focused presentation. Because this is a little bit of everything, including more gameplay for Mortal Kombat 1.
First gameplay for Mortal Kombat 1. We had only seen a teaser trailer before. This was actual fighting gameplay.
Was that not actual game?
That wasn't before. This is. Okay. So yeah, they showed, it looks like a little bit more grounded approach than 11, the last Mortal Kombat game. It seemed like a little bit more realistic. It really showcased that this is a reset for all the main characters, complete with new voice actors, new backstories, everything. So it's like they're basically treating this as a entry point for people who are new to the franchise, as the one implies. Looks good, but again, those every generation they go on, those fatalities look more and more graphic. So prepare yourself. A lot of hearts getting smashed, a lot of rib cages getting broken.
Prepare your kids.
Very bloody. Keep this away from children.
Speaking of things that are very bloody, Fortnite.
Not bloody at all. What are you talking about?
All right, so is everybody not in Fortnite by this point?
Well, it seems like they're finally gathering up the few franchises that aren't in Fortnite. The teaser they showed yesterday for the new season in the new chapter 4 revealed a Transformers crossover, so you will be able to play as Transformers characters, including Optimus Prime. Sure, why not? You can ride on little raptors, apparently, too. I don't know. I have to admit, I finally canceled my Fortnite Crew subscription this week because I was like, I just haven't played it enough to warrant paying for it.
Are you serious?
I might be.
You mean in your crew of 4, you could have Optimus Prime, Goku,
Ariana Grande,
yes, and I want to say
Nathan Drake.
Master Chief,
Aloy, Master Chief.
Yes,
any of those people you could be.
All in your party.
Mr. Beast.
All in your party in Fortnite.
LeBron James.
Yeah, he was a character.
Yeah, you could be LeBron James if you want.
Oh, what even is Fortnite?
Who can say, honestly? Who can say?
All right.
But
anyways, yeah, Optimus Prime coming to Fortnite. Ready your V-Bucks.
Yes.
Let's see here. In a surprise announcement, Sega revealed Sonic Superstars, remake of the
not a remake.
Well, they showed level 1-1.
They always show Green Hill Zone because you have to show Green Hill Zone.
They showed it in both 8-bit and 16-bit and like current CG.
So this is yet another attempt at trying to modernize classic Sonic gameplay, except this time with a co-op twist. seems like they're focused in on making a new Super Mario Brothers style co-op game with the bones of the Sonic franchise. I think it looks okay. I think the chaos of it all will help a Sonic game be a little bit more than just a Sonic game. It looks like it could be all right, especially right now we're kind of on an upward trajectory for Sonic. People really liked Mania, and people thought Forces was an interesting experiment. So yeah, sure. I'm willing to at least see if this is any good.
All right. I mean, they also had Frontier, which I just saw.
Oh, Frontier, not Forces. Sorry, you're right.
Yeah, Frontier, the open world,
right?
Which you just got speedrun. We'll talk about that soon. That was a really interesting speedrun too. Let's see, Alan Wake 2.
Yeah, so
got the October 17th date.
Yeah, showed some gameplay of this as well, and they actually had one of the developers on the stage, which as soon as this happened, I was like, oh, is this what this show's going to be? Are we going to do like this moment again? No, that was the only moment that they gave to a developer. But yeah, we got to learn more about the characters in the world of Alan Wake 2. And they showed gameplay that looked kind of like those Resident Evil remakes. It looks like that's the kind of game they're making here. It looks cool. I didn't play the first one, but it seems like this is a good continuation of that.
Yep. Then they also had gameplay of Yakuza Gaiden.
Yes, the man who erased his name. This is a spinoff in the Yakuza / Like a Dragon series. This is a shorter game, and I believe it's also going to be $40. So it's a cheaper game. It's not going to be a full
$60
40-hour, $60 experience.
Remember what $40 was a full game?
Damn, yeah, I know. A long time ago.
Yep. We also got a teaser trailer for upcoming Star Trek Infinite.
Yep, strategy game.
John Carpenter's Toxic Commando.
Yeah, zombie game with John Carpenter's seal of approval. So
yes, not John Carpenter. It's John Carpenter inspired, right?
Well, no, he's actually involved.
Oh, he is involved.
No, his name's on the game on purpose.
Oh,
because he actually was involved in the creation of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he loves video games. I don't know if you know this about John Carpenter, but it's pretty well established. Like in interviews and stuff, he's talked about games that he's played. He loves like Fallout and stuff.
Oh,
yeah, for reals.
Reals?
Yeah, for real. Game fan John
old.
Carpenter. Old people can like video games. I hate to break this to you.
Well, we're old.
To be fair, he's like my dad's age, and my dad likes Fallout 2. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, okay.
I should say Fallout as well, not Fallout 2. I don't think he ever played Fallout 2. 3, though. He put in more hours of Fallout 3 in New Vegas than I did. That's how I'll put it. He has like 1 billion saves. It's so funny.
All right. We also got our first look at a new Bandai Namco game from Akira Toriyama called Sandland.
Yeah, apparently, I did not know this going in, but it is based on a manga that Akira Toriyama, of course, of Dragon Ball fame, wrote, but from like 20 years ago.
Like early 2000s?
And for whatever reason, just now it's getting a video game adaptation. So somebody did some digging. It was like, what else can we do in his career?
Well, after they've redone Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super for the 4th or 5th time.
Do something else. But it looks nice. I mean, obviously, his art really works well in a cel-shaded video game. And this is no different.
Yeah. Then we have a Pokemon Light game called Pal World.
Is it light, though, or is it heavy? Because these Pokemon are packing.
Heat. Guns.
Yes.
Guns ablazing.
Yeah, Pokemon with guns. Is that a thing you ever wanted? Well, here it is.
I believe that's called Digimon.
Well, no. I mean, like, it's a shooter with Pokemon. Yeah, Pal World is a weird name for this game. Yes. This seems very violent. But yes, Pokemon with guns. Get ready for it.
But like I said, Pokemon with guns is just Digimon.
Yeah, I am fascinated with this. I have no idea. I feel like it could be interesting, but I guess we won't find out until January.
Yep. Could be something to check out in January.
Yeah, we'll see.
We also have Lord of the Rings Return to Moria.
Because after Gollum, everyone wants another Lord of the Rings game.
Well, after Gollum, everyone wants a different Lord of the Rings game.
Yeah, here it is.
I mean, yeah.
A survival crafting game in the mines of Moria. Somebody wants this. It's probably somebody.
It feels more like a dungeon crawler. if you're in the mines.
It says it bears resemblance to Deep Rock Galactic. So if you played that, it's like that kind of crafting, adventure, survival kind of co-op experience. And you're excited, I'm sure, about more information about Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis for phones.
Yes. We also have Banishers. Banishers. Ghosts of New Eden. From the creators of Vampire.
Yeah, sure.
Vampire.
That's shit. What's the developer's name? They were the originally
Don't Nod.
Don't Nod. Thank you. The Life is Strange people.
Yes.
Original Life is Strange.
We had our Twisted Metal debut on Peacock. July 27th.
They showed a clip of this Twisted Metal show on
with Anthony Mackie.
Got Anthony Mackie and Will Arnett hamming it up as the voice and only the voice of Sweet Tooth. I don't know. This was weird. This was a weird clip. I feel like it didn't tell us anything about this show.
No, it's just supposed to say, hey, remember Twisted Metal?
Yeah, remember these characters? Remember Sweet
That's
Tooth?
all it was.
Who is this for? Because I don't think anybody cares about Twisted Metal anymore.
I don't know. Marvel Snap continues to get updates.
I definitely thought of you when they announced the competitive mode finally. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It's here.
It's great. Except I've seen a lot of people now complain that once they've unlocked all the current tier cards, especially people who've been playing since it started, that to gain new cards, it takes way too long and way too expensive for drops for them.
Yeah.
Because they want you to use the inbound currency, but once you get to that level, you're using your decks like on a consistent basis that you don't want to like influence new cards into them.
Okay, so you're worried that this is going to shake it up too much?
Well, no, it needs to be shaken up too much. That's what I'm saying. It needs to be shaken up too much. But adding a tournament-style single elimination competition mode is only going to work for so long when the cards themselves and the characters themselves are starting to stifle players.
The meta is off.
Oh, I hate talking about the meta.
It's all about, that's the thing about card games.
I know it is.
They'll have metas. Anyways.
All right. There's also a new trailer for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Season 4 and Path of Exile 2. Got a new trailer. Let's see. Is there anything else?
And they showed some of that Lies of P, Souls-like. There's a demo up if you want to play that. Nicolas Cage showed up, talked about his cameo appearance in Dead by Daylight. There's a sequel to Yes, Your Grace. What else? Oh, they showed a bunch of Immortals of Avium, which looks okay. It's like a magic first-person shooter. EA is really getting behind it, which is kind of shocking. They're putting out that Honkai Star Rail game on PS5. That's from the Genshin Impact people. What else? Keep scrolling. Fae Farm, which was announced at one of the Nintendo Indie things, is also coming to other consoles.
PC. Yeah. Throwing party
they
animals.
Keep trying to shove party animals down our throat. I'm just not impressed.
Oh, the brawler?
Yeah.
The stuffed animal brawler?
Every single Jeff Keighley thing has had this trailer, and I'm just like over it. Yeah, I don't know. There's going to be a Porsche-themed Xbox console. Yeah, that was pretty much it. Like I said, a lot of people were disappointed in the lack of huge, big news, but I wasn't really expecting there to be anything that major. And so, yeah, we didn't really get any huge surprises. Microsoft will be the next big thing. That will be tomorrow morning. So we won't be able to talk about it on this podcast. Yep. We'll have to talk about it next time.
But we'll also get Ubisoft to talk about it next time as well.
Yeah, but really the big one is Microsoft. They have a lot to prove. This is a real make it or break it moment for them. Because if they don't catch us up on a lot of games that they announced like 3 years ago, then they're really in trouble. So really makes you wonder, what are they working on? How close are these things to actually come out? Are they coming out this year? So all those questions kind of swirl around tomorrow's showcase. And then we'll also have that second whole show about Starfield. That'll break down more information about Starfield too. So,
all right. So that was just Summer Game Fest. But hey, there's other stuff that happened outside of it.
Yeah, just a handful of bits.
including Nintendo's reportedly close to striking a deal with Universal for a Zelda movie.
Yeah, it seems like this report came out of some people in the business that would know that talks are happening. Whether or not this is Illumination in an animated film, still it seems unclear. I would guess that they'll probably work with Illumination.
Well, they'll put it under Nintendo Pictures.
Yeah, that's a guarantee because that's on the Nintendo side. But what we don't know is what it will be, if it'll be animated, what's happening. I honestly think that if you do this, it has to be a completely different approach than Mario. The story matters more in Zelda. You need to have
the lore matters more.
You need to have a world. You need to have characters. You need to have arcs, because if you don't set that up and you do just what they did with the Mario movie, it's going to be nonsense and it won't work.
Well, see, it's easier to do with the Mario movie because there is no plot line. The plot line is rescue the princess.
You can put Mario in a lot of situations and it'll work. Zelda, though, you put Link in a specific situation.
We've seen Mario in a lot of situations before. We've seen him play tennis. We've seen him play go-karts. We've seen him do golf.
Has Link driven a go-kart as well? Yes. But
Link has been on the links.
Yeah, he might have not been on the links, ironically enough. But yeah, no, I think that, yeah, if they're going to do this, they have to do it differently. And fingers crossed they can pull it off, because it's going to be a lot more difficult than Mario was.
People will be a lot more in tune to keeping track of the lore.
Yes.
Let's see. We also have, in other news, Atlas has accidentally revealed Persona 3 Reloaded and Persona 5 Tactica early on Instagram.
Yeah, I guess their social media person kind of jumped the gun. They were going to reveal it later in that same day. It kind of came out early. So 3 Reload is, as it suggests, a remake of Persona 3. And Persona 5 Tactica, as that name implies, is a tactics game starring characters from Persona 5. Both of these games, though, in a weird twist, will be available day one on Game Pass. So Atlas's partnership with Microsoft releasing the previous Persona games on Game Pass was not a fluke. It seems like they have a working relationship with each other, and these will be day one Game Pass games. So if you have Game Pass and you like Persona, hey, you're in luck. The one question I have is, does this remake of Persona 3 still have you shooting yourself in the head? Because I feel like times have changed a little bit. I wonder if people are a little more sensitive to that now. We'll see, I guess, if those teenagers are still shooting themselves in the head.
I mean, it's called Reload, so
it does imply, doesn't it?
It does imply I'm going to do it again.
So Persona people, let us know.
Anyway. I wonder if they really announced it early, as a East Coast, West Coast. I forgot what
what time zone is
I'm in.
Yeah, who can say?
All right. We also have a little update from Annapurna Interactive that they will hold its next game showcase later this month.
Yeah, so I mentioned this specifically because apparently the quote that came out alongside this announcement was they're going to announce their biggest thing yet, which implies that Annapurna is publishing something huge.
Something big is coming.
Yeah, who knows? I have no idea, honestly, what it could possibly be. So this is going to be a surprise, potentially.
Let's see here. It's a crossover with an upcoming movie.
I doubt it.
Okay. We also had announcement from Madden NFL 24 revealed again ahead of its August release that will feature crossplay.
Yeah, a first for the franchise. You'll be able to play crossplay between people on other platforms. So if you have a person who always buys Madden for PlayStation and a person who always buys Madden for Xbox, you guys can finally play with each other.
It finally happened.
It finally is.
They finally built their servers.
So there you go. I'm sure we'll learn very soon who is going to be your cover athlete.
They already showed.
Oh, did they?
Yes. Josh Allen.
Okay. All right.
He is on the cover for the standard and deluxe version. No word yet who's going to be the legacy Madden cover athlete.
Who can say?
Let's see.
Not Aaron Rodgers.
He's not retired yet.
Oh, right. He's still playing. He's a Jet now.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Because when you're a
Jet, you're a Jet all the way. Yeah, I almost made that joke.
You can bet he's a Jet.
Left that for you there. Okay, anyways.
All right, anyways. We also had an announcement of new Pikmin 4 trailer which will be the character creation system.
Yeah.
And that PlayStation, unfortunately, won't be attending Gamescom 2023.
Which means, like I keep saying, that showcase is all we're getting. Like, that is going to be just what we have for a while.
And they did announce pretty much everything through October.
Yeah.
So,
but nothing for the future. There's a lot of questions. Just like Xbox, really, Xbox and PlayStation are in more similar situations than you think, where it's like, it seems like, and Nintendo, actually, all three of them is like, well, what else? What do we have?
what is the future?
Like, what is the future? It's just, it feels like all first-party output is just really slow lately. So we'll see.
And two last bits here. Summer Games Done Quick wrapped up, officially accumulated $2.2 million.
Good job.
They had to hit the $2 million mark in order to do a blindfold speed run.
Yes.
Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Which I heard was incredible.
Did you?
No.
Oh, it is
I haven't watched it yet, but I heard some things.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was only able to watch like the first hour because it was like at midnight our time.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's why I didn't.
1 o'clock. I was like, oh, come on. You're so close. I know you just want to do it, but like, can we just please just start the game? But yeah, by the time I got like an hour, I was like, oh, I can't keep my eyes open. I'm just going to fall asleep. But the stuff they were doing and how far they got within that first hour, I was like, wait, is this game really not that hard? Or is he just really that good?
Maybe both.
It could be both. The fact that you're doing it blindfolded and able to get through several of the temples.
Yeah.
Blindfolded in an hour.
That's good game design. That's all that is like, give me enough cues that I can follow without necessarily just relying on visuals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Smart.
And lastly, and this will lead us right into our thoughts.
Yeah.
Diablo IV, according to Blizzard, is their fastest selling game ever.
Apparently already setting records only days after its original release. Yeah, it's a huge hit for them already. And we're not even a week out.
So you played some of this. You streamed some of this.
Yes. So I played a couple of games this week. So last week I mentioned I wasn't sure if I was going to get either of these. Well, I got both.
Okay.
And I was able to play both of these new releases. But yeah, first, I'll start with Diablo because holy crap, I'm having a blast with this thing. So I had mentioned previously on the podcast, I had not played a whole lot of the previous three Diablos. I had heard a lot about them. I knew vaguely what they were. And I knew I would probably like them because I like a lot of games that were inspired by the Diablo series. I mean, what is Borderlands but a first-person interpretation of the Diablo structure? And now, playing a Diablo game, I know what people meant by that. Mm-hmm. It is, you have a character that is a class. You have a choice between what class you take. You are literally just set out in the world and say, okay, go around, kill enemies. They'll drop stuff, find treasure chests, get loot, continue to upgrade your stuff over and 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 over again, always getting new and better things. Go into town, sell your junk, upgrade your shit, buy new shit if you want to spend money, help get side quests, get main quests, and rinse, repeat. That's literally Diablo.
But is there a main story?
So there is a main story, actually, and they did a lot of work here. Basically, as Christy put it, it is when I told her what was happening in this game, she said, oh, so it's the plot of Supernatural. Heaven and hell are at war, and Lilith is on Earth and is recruiting humans to her cause, basically. And there is some sort of Jesus equivalent who is also around, and whenever Lilith is up to no good, he shows up to like battle her. And that's basically the background. You are basically just somebody who's very good at demon slaying, and so people are constantly asking you to help them slay demons around them. That's basically the plot of Diablo 4. I mean, if you play the previous Diablos, there's probably a lot more going on. There's probably characters you recognize. I don't have any of that foreknowledge, so I'm going in fresh, and I'm kind of learning as I go on, but that's the basics. Honestly, it's a good podcast game. You don't need to pay attention to the story to really have a good time with this, but if you do, the cutscenes are some of the best work Blizzard's ever done. Like, honestly, that opening cutscene is amazing looking. It is some of probably the best CG cutscene I've seen in a video game, period. If you do one thing and you're interested at all in CG cutscenes, look that up because it is a wonder of what they were able to pull off. Like, their facial animation is incredible looking. Like there were moments where I was like, that's just a dude. That's live action. That can't be a computer made. A computer made that? You're telling me a computer made this? It's like that kind of quality. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I love the customization options for character creation. It's way more in depth than I expected it to be. I love the fact that we were just talking about this. It's one of our favorite features in video games. Is there's transmogrification, so you don't have to choose the default look of your armor. You can choose a look that you've had previously from another armor that you've unlocked and keep that as your permanent look, and you can change its color.
Nice.
So you can make your dude or lady or whoever look exactly like you want them to look, even if you're constantly upgrading their gear.
Yeah, we've seen that more recently with God of War, Ragnarok, as well as Hogwarts.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. So yeah, like it's just fun moment-to-moment gameplay, and there's a lot of customization in your attacks as well. And this has been the case in previous games as well. But basically, like you have a lot of power over what you assign to what buttons, what direction you go with your skill tree. Oh, am I going to specify, like, make my character really really adept at like adding damage over time? I'm gonna like spec towards like I'm just gonna poison things all the time and have a lot of poison damage rack up. Or am I going to do things with crowd control? Am I going to be ranged? Am I going to be close up melee? Like there's so many ways to customize it. I feel like I'm only scratched the surface of how much game is in this game. I'm still in Act 1 out of 6, and I've played like 6-7 hours of this thing. It's incredibly massive. This is huge. There's so much game here. It's so fun to just play and zone out to and just get lost moving around killing dudes. Like if that sounds good to you, you're gonna love Diablo 4.
Does it feel repetitive killing everyone though?
So that's the thing, is because you're constantly getting better and unlocking new abilities, you have the choice of whether or not it gets boring, because it's basically on you to be like, oh, well, I'm kind of getting bored doing the same thing over and over again. Let's respec my skill tree and see what other options are out there for me. Also, the side missions are pretty varied. So if you get bored doing the main mission stuff, take a few side missions and go off the beaten path for a little bit. You'll help people. Like I just helped somebody do an exorcism as a side quest. Like there was one that was like, oh, I'm going around getting this meat for this dude. I'm going to bring it back to him. Like there's a lot of other things going on beyond just the main story that I think that there's stuff there for if you get bored, there's other things you can focus on.
So it's not like Saints Row where it was go here and kill all these people.
Right,
go here and kill all these people.
I mean, it is that, but it isn't that. And I think that obviously this game, if you're like on a meta level, that is ultimately what you're doing, just like Saints Row. Yeah. It is ultimately a game about show up to a place, kill all the monsters. Okay. But unlike Saints Row, it's not just shoot them in the head, shoot them in the head, shoot them in the head. Here, there's so many options with how you can battle people, how you can customize your character to kill things in the way you want to kill things.
Oh, we'll get to that in a minute here.
So yeah, I'm having a blast with it. I'm almost to the point where maybe this is the game I should have bought instead of vice versa. Okay. Because I also played another new release, Street Fighter 6.
So speaking of customization, you can create your own character here
in the World Tour mode. Yes. So Street Fighter 6 is interesting because it's actually divided into 3 games, and to the point where I bought it and then the download didn't start, and I was like, why didn't the download start? Then turns out is because they actually treat those 3 separate pieces as 3 separate pieces. You don't have to download all 3. If you only want one, you can specify which one you want. It's divided into World Tour, which is the one you're mentioning here, which is you create a fighter avatar and go into kind of a Yakuza-style open-world city and complete missions while you're being taught by the Street Fighter characters moves and fighting styles. And you get better and better. You level up. You get stat-increasing clothes to put on your character and stuff like that. That's the World Tour mode. Then there's also the Battle Hub, which is your traditional online tournament kind of structure, fighting game like hub, where that's really designed for online play. And then there's the Fighter something, I forget what the third one name is, but it's basically
classic.
It's your classic. This is where the tutorials are.
Yep.
This is where
arcade mode is. Your
arcade mode.
mode.
It's story, like the story modes for each of the characters.
Yep.
That's what that is. So depending on the kind of fighting game experience you want, you can choose your zone there. So I initially jumped in and did the kind of surface levels tutorial because I'm not really super familiar with Street Fighter.
So did you do classic or modern?
Glad you asked. So that's the big new feature here in Street Fighter 6 is that they figured that this was going to be a game where a lot of new players would be entering Street Fighter for the first time.
Or returning players who haven't picked it up since Street Fighter 2.
And so they give you a few options with how you control it. There's the classic mode, which is just like traditional Street Fighter, where you are keying together combos using the different inputs to create the special moves. So it is very much like quarter circle on the stick to do the fireball kind of stuff. Then there's the two new options. There's modern controls, which is a simplified version of that approach. I've seen a lot of people compare this to Super Smash Brothers.
Yes.
I actually don't think that that's an accurate description. The actual practice of playing it actually reminds me of Soul Calibur controls, where it is simpler than Street Fighter, but not as simple as something like a Super Smash Brothers.
Right.
Where it is, you have a light attack on for Xbox controls.
Yeah.
A heavy attack on, or I'm getting that revert actually. X is light attack. A is heavy. Then like A plus X for a grab. And then all your special moves are keyed to Y and different movements of the stick. Of course, this even varies depending on which player, which fighting style that you're under. And so, yeah, it's like simpler than the traditional controls, but it's still like, there's still a learning curve there. So I ended up going with the modern controls because I wasn't ready to kind of dive into learning actual Street Fighter quite yet. I may take a look at it. Then there's even simpler mode if you really want to make it easy, called like automatic, which is basically like you press the buttons and it figures it out for you. It'll create combos, kind of like auto combo you through fights. So if you're an absolute beginner and you want to just have some fun with it,
just button mash.
Yeah, you can do that as well. So for example, like Christy, I might, if I battle her, I might be like, hey, try this out on this mode because it'll make her feel better than just immediately showing her a tutorial for 10 minutes and having her try to wrap her mind around it. So yeah, it's neat that they're giving you the option because it does, because I think the worry would be is like, oh, well, if you do modern controls, are you sacrificing the experience of learning a fighting game? And I don't think so. And the reason why I say that is they only get you so far because in order to be successful at a fighting game, you still need to know when to do things. The thing I think people don't understand about fighting games that aren't Super Smash Brothers is that difference is like you can learn the button presses, you can learn the combos, but knowing when to do things and timing and like choices in the moment decision making is what actual fighting games are about. And so that's why I don't think you see a huge backlash over the modern controls like you would have maybe 10 years ago, because I think we're to the point where people know that is that the game is about decision making. It's not about how fast you are at pressing buttons. It never was. It's always been about tactics.
Right. It's been about like when to block, when to counter, when to go full out, or when to pull back.
Yeah, it's not an easy mode is the way I'll put it, because I picked the modern controls and I'm still struggling with learning the game. Like, it's going to be a learning experience for me. It feels like an uphill climb. I'm struggling with blocking. I'm struggling with crouching. I start struggling with how to not jump too much and like rely on those jump kicks like I do in Mortal Kombat, for example. It's like trying to like figure out that on the fly decision making is the hardest part, and I'm not there yet. But the game's slow ramp in the World Tour mode, which is where I've been focusing my time on so far, is helping me, I think, learn it over time. But I'm just not quite like clicking with it, and I'm really looking forward to spending enough time where I end up clicking with it.
So speaking of the World Tour mode, character creation.
Yeah.
Lots of options.
Pretty in-depth. It really gives you a lot of options. I ended up at first creating somebody who looked really weirdly like Natasha Lyonne. And I don't know how that happened. I changed her hair color though, so now she doesn't look like Natasha Lyonne anymore because that was freaking me out. I was like, I just created Natasha Lyonne is up here. I think it was mostly the hairdo I chose.
She changed her brown. It's just Chrissy.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think I'm rocking with like a green teal now.
Okay.
But yeah, and it's fun because there's a lot of cool like. I think if you're going in to like get the vibe and tone of this game, World Tour is a good place to start because you can get all the characters' personalities. You get to like learn the world and the lore of Street Fighter, what lore there is. Surprisingly, a lot actually. And kind of learn the ropes from the masters themselves. Like I just met Chun-Li and I learned her moves, so now I can do her little spinning.
Now you can
thing.
Fly.
I can do the spinning kick thing now and stuff like that. There's some cool like light exploration stuff in that mode as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things that wasn't there, and I watched some gameplay of like you can take the special moves from the different characters and spec it to your person. So like if you like Chun-Li's kicks with the with Ryu's Hadouken,
exactly,
you can just combine them both.
And I think this is a good thing for people who are new to the franchise to play, especially me, because this is going to help me learn what character's style I actually like. So that way, when I pivot to the other modes, then I'll know who I'm going to quote main unquote going forward. I'll get to kind of have the tasting platter, the flight, if you will, of different styles to try. Yeah. So little Chun-Li, a little Ryu, a little, all the new characters and stuff. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. But like I said, it's gonna be a uphill climb for me. Somebody who really has only played like Super Smash Brothers and Soul Calibur, and not particularly great at either of them either. So yeah, fighting games. I've always been interested in them on a surface level, and like maybe this is the one that I invest my time in. And I figured it was safe to purchase because it's going to be around for a while. Like this is not a game that's going to go away. People are going to continue playing Street Fighter 6 for a while.
Well, because that's what the third mode is.
Right, yeah, the Battle Hub.
The Battle Hub, where you can take your spec character and go into the Battle Hub where you can face off against other people, other created characters. Yeah.
It's neat stuff. And again, just like Diablo, I feel like I've only scratched the surface of all the things that I can do. And that's really exciting. So yeah, after kind of being like, what am I doing with Tears of the Kingdom and feeling like bad that I didn't get it, like with the thing that everybody talking about, to immediately go into two games where I'm like, actually, no, this is my shit. I'm going to play these for hours. I'm very excited. And like what everybody said about these things is true. It's really like comforted me in a way. It's like, I thought I was broken, but no, it's just that everybody has the kind of games that click for them. And just for whatever reason, Zelda just didn't click for me.
So you have two good games that you recommend?
Yeah, two great games that I recommend. I'm having a blast with both of them, and I 100% guarantee both of these will appear on my year-end list.
Perfect.
So yeah, and then you've got Final Fantasy coming up.
Yep.
But have you been dabbling in anything else lately?
Yes. So after we streamed yesterday, wow, what day is it?
What are you talking about?
My weeks goes disappear.
Yeah.
So after we streamed last week, I jumped online and I streamed rather a lot of Humanity.
Yeah, you're loving that thing.
I platinumed it.
Hey!
earlier this week. Yay! So mark that one off.
Is that your favorite game of the year so far?
Is it the only one that I've platinumed?
I think so.
This
year? Yeah.
This year. No, that can't be. I mean, I think it's the one I've highlighted.
That can't be true.
That can't be true. No. Where's my thoughts here?
Okay, Survivor. That's right. That's the thing you played this year.
Yeah, but I did not platinum that.
No.
But yeah, that was going to take a while to platinum.
Yeah.
It was also Chia. For some reason, I saw a lot of new chatter for Chia.
Oh.
Especially because Breath of the Wild, where it may be too intimidating. People are like, oh, if you think that's intimidating, go to Chia.
Yeah, it's like a light version of the same kind of
super light version, but yeah, same kind of concept.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, I did play a lot of Hogwarts Legacy.
Well, we're not going to talk about
it. Yes. But like I said, I got Spider-Man coming out later this year, and I've got Final Fantasy.
Honestly, what a fantastic year for video games. I already see people talking about like, oh, this is going to be one of those all-timer years.
It feels like it.
Like 2008, like 1998, like a big year. People are going to remember. Hey, remember when we got Diablo, Zelda, Street Fighter,
Spider-Man 2,
Spider-Man, and Final Fantasy, and like you can just keep going.
and Alan Wake, and yeah.
And the crazy part about it, we don't even probably know what fall's going to look like yet.
Right.
Like there's probably a lot of things that Microsoft's going to tell us tomorrow morning that we're going to be like, oh, and also we get this. Like for all we know, Everwild from Rare and Perfect Dark could also be this fall, and we'll be like, holy shit.
Well, Starfield could also just.
Oh yeah, and
drop
Starfield.
too.
Starfield, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh jeez, too many games. Just like that. What year was that? There's like an EGM, classic EGM issue that the cover was just too many games. I think I owned that one.
Well, you know, when we've had like a drought for the past
yeah.
Well, not a drought, but like a steady stream.
I feel like after last year, I feel like was kind of light. We're finally all the payoff is this year.
Because a lot of especially in 2020 when games were delayed, it's like okay, they're delayed, but how long are they going to be delayed for? Yeah. Here we are, 3 years later.
Yep.
Getting tasting those sweet delays.
Yes. All right, let's move on.
All right. So played Rest of Humanity, Platinumed Humanity. Did not look up any of the hints how to finish it. It's just you play it normally, and then the trophy system it tells you what you're supposed to do, and I like that. That's okay, here's my restrictions for this level. Let me now figure it out and how to beat it.
Well, cool.
So yeah, that was a great thing because after I collected all the gold men I normally do because completion brain. You have to collect your gold men in this run. And you can't move on. You can't just get to the end.
Your goldmans.
Yes. So that was fun. Way to go back. There is a second mode that I was delving in just lightly to, and that is the online content created mode.
I can play other people's creations.
I can play other people's creations, and I can create my own stuff.
Infinite humanity.
Yeah. Or speed run blind.
Yeah.
runs. But yeah, there's content creation. You can create your own stuff. You get your own humanity levels.
All right.
So this game can be infinite, but then again, it can be just as much puzzles as you're willing to solve.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
So yeah, it's a good game. Cool. Humanity.
All right, cool. Awesome. Humanity. Let's move on to the television section.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about this thing.
Yes, we got a lot to talk about. Let's talk about first, though, the sports corner. Starting with
sports corner.
Do you like making a mess? Do you like getting messy?
I mean, I like cleaning up my messes.
Well, Inter Miami, the Major League Soccer team, is getting messy. Lionel Messi to play for them. So yeah, this is the latest in internationally famous soccer star, quote unquote, retires and then ends up playing for the Major League Soccer League.
Well, not to be confused with Ronaldo, who's playing for the Saudi Arabia League, which we'll talk about them in a bit here.
Yeah, but this is kind of a big deal because Messi is one of the players.
I mean, yeah, he was the player 10 years ago. Same way when David Beckham came over to the Galaxy, he was the player. I mean, as you mentioned, long list of famous UK Premier players, international players, now playing for the MLS.
Yeah, so I guess good news for Inter Miami.
Well, you know who owns Inter Miami, right?
Who owns Inter Miami?
David Beckham.
Aha! Well, that explains a lot.
That's how we got him.
Moving into the NBA, your finals are neck and neck.
Oh, wait, no.
Oh, this is out of date?
No, it's not out of date. This was me being hopeful.
Well.
Because they played last night.
You're not hopeful, as the Nuggets are up in the series against the Heat 3-1.
Yes, your number 1 seeded Nuggets against the number 8 seeded
Seems
Heat.
like they're going to pull it off. It sounds like.
I mean, they only need to win one more game, and the Heat need to sweep the remaining 3.
We'll see if they can. Speaking of similar situations, the NHL finals also are here. Golden Knights are 2 against just 1 game for the Panthers.
They play again later tonight or later today. But yeah, once again, number 1 seed.
Yeah,
Golden Knights against number 8 seed for Panthers.
I love an underdog. I would hope that these underdogs can take over because that would be a more interesting story. But we'll see.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why you love the underdog because you like rooting for the upset. It's not unless you're rooting for the team and it's going to be business as usual.
Yeah,
I mean, people like an underdog story.
It's true. Moving into baseball, we have our first two teams to cross the 40-win line.
Yep.
The Texas Rangers and the Tampa Bay Rays, which makes sense because they are the biggest offensive showcases in the league right now. Like, just watch a Rangers or a Rays game. It's just like they never stop hitting.
Yep.
It's just embarrassing for the other teams. It sucks that the Rangers are in our division.
I would say, speaking of embarrassing teams and embarrassing divisions,
oh Lord,
the AL West has both one of the top teams and the worst team.
Somehow.
In the same division.
And that's where we end up, sandwiched right in the middle with the Mariners, who we're currently in a series against.
Yep.
And I'm hoping we can win, take the series, because if we don't, we're just going to trade off third and fourth forever.
Yep.
This is going to just be embarrassing. It's like, if we can just hold third, that wild card spot is ours.
That's why beating the Cubs in the past series, sweeping the
really
Cubs,
mattered. Yeah.
really mattered. You got to win the games against the easy opponents.
We have to. And the fact we took one,
you got to win the games you're supposed to win.
And the fact we took one against the Mariners with supposedly their ace on the mound is a good sign. If this only going to get easier from now on, right?
I mean, we already used our ace.
But they are the Angels, though, so anything could possibly happen. Hey, at least we're not. What is it? There's one division where there's not
the AL East.
Yeah, that has no teams with a winning record. Or no, there's one with a team.
No, AL East,
a losing record.
It's not a losing record.
Right. There's another division though where nobody has a winning record.
That's the NL.
Yeah, I don't remember.
What? No, not the.
I don't remember, but yeah.
NL East? Is that Central?
It might be Central.
I think it's Central.
Yeah, I think
NL
it's
Central.
But yeah, it's just like it's such a land of contrast, the MLB right now. Like, who the hell knows what the playoffs are going to.
I like the screenshot where it showed the Boston Red Sox, who are last in the AL East, would have been first in the other two AL divisions.
Yeah, it's sad because also in that AL Central, the Angels would be in first place with their record.
Yep.
It's incredible how different it is depending. Like, this is why we got to do that expansion so we can like trade, like move things around and like even up this competition, because it seems like there's a lot of weird lopsided situations.
You just got to add a couple more West teams.
Just a couple more. Yep. That's all we need. Salt Lake City and
Portland.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. All right.
Anyways, elsewhere in the MLB. Get your votes in. All-Star voting continues.
Next up, we move to college softball as Oklahoma defeated Florida State.
Yep, the College World Series.
Yes, in the College World Series, 3-1. So congratulations, they are three-peat champions.
Yes,
5 in the last 7 seasons.
Dominant.
Oklahoma
softball.
Man,
men's College World Series continues. They're in the Super Regionals right now. Great games, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
8-run comeback in one of them from Oregon.
Looks like it, yeah.
They will continue, and I think they end at the end of June before we hit July. So, congratulations to the women's Oklahoma softball team.
Yeah, geez.
3-peat champs.
This is why I so badly want there to be some sort of women's baseball, like, or softball or ball league that is like mainstream and professional.
Outside of the like national team that plays in the Olympics.
Yeah, right. Like, I feel like there's so much talent that nobody is paying attention to, because baseball, as we think of it, is such a man's like sport. And it's like, so it's disappointing to me. Like, man, we need a real pitch. The Fox Show pitch.
Yes.
We need a real pitch to happen. It's just, I don't know. I would love to see that someday. All right, let's move on. Last story here, the USFL.
Yep.
South Division dominant over the North Division 2 weeks before playoffs.
So funny you mentioned the MLB where no one has a winning record.
Right.
the USFL North does not have a winning team. Meanwhile, the South Division everyone has 5 games or better wins. There's only one team that has 1 loss. Every other team in that division, 2 losses. So literally, it can flip flop in that. There's only 2 weeks left, so there's no like playoffs actually set because they're so close in records. But yeah, we have this week, we have next week, and then playoffs right after that.
All right.
And it's going to be the same thing as the XFL, where it's a 1-week playoff and then the championship game.
Okay, so look forward to that if you're looking for some
And
football
no other major sport-related news happened this week.
Except for one, and this is going to be our first television story of the week. Segue into our television section.
Just because it's that big of a story.
This is my turn to take a big breath because this is going to be a lot to read and dissect.
This could possibly be our story of the
for sports, but we'll see how it goes. Because I feel like there's a lot of questions.
Oh yes.
So the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, and the Public Investment Fund, the PIF,
which is the Saudi Arabia
backed fund,
fund,
on Thursday announced a landmark agreement to unify the game of golf on a global basis. The two entities, in case you're wanting to explain, PGA Tour and LIV Golf are the two entities we're talking about here.
Yes.
Signed an agreement that would combine the PGA Tour and LIV Golf's commercial businesses and rights to a new, yet-to-be-named WGT company.
I'm calling it WGT because otherwise you're going to say yet-to-be-named entity. So I'm just calling it WGT, which stands for World Golf Tour.
Yeah, we'll just call it that.
So we're just going to call it World Golf Tour for the remainder of the story until they come up with an actual name. Because
otherwise,
honestly, WGT sounds like a pretty great name.
That could work. Yeah. Under the terms of the commercial operations, under the terms of the agreement, the board of directors and the WGT will oversee and direct all the WGT's golf-related commercial operations, businesses, and investments. The new entity will work to ensure a cohesive schedule of events that will be exciting for fans, sponsors, and all stakeholders. Big emphasis on that last one. PIF will initially be the exclusive investor in the WGT, alongside the PGA Tour, LIV Golf, and the DP World Tour. Going forward, the PIF will have the exclusive right to further invest in the WGT, including a right of first refusal on any capital that may be invested in the WGT, including into the PGA Tour, LIV Golf, and DP World Tour. The PGA Tour will appoint a majority of the board and hold a majority voting interest in the combined WGT. Separately, PGA Tour Incorporated will remain in place as a tax-exempt organization and retains administrative oversight of events for those assets contributed by the PGA Tour, including the sanctioning of events, the administration of the competition and rules, as well as all other inside-the-ropes responsibilities. That's in quotes, inside the ropes.
Well, that's the term. Anything that happens with inside the ropes is like legally in place, like inside the baseball lines.
Yeah. With Jay Monahan as commissioner and Ed Hurley as PGA Tour Policy Board chairman.
So I want to pause right there. This means that the PGA Tour is not going away.
No, and they will largely still be an independent organization, at least as pertains to deciding when events happen, what rules are, basically all the things that they already do.
For now. Because as we continue, though.
We'll get there when we finish. But there's a lot of questions about how long that will take.
Yes.
So PIF's governor, Yasir Al-Rumayyan, will join the PGA Tour Policy Board. The DP World Tour and LIV Golf will retain similar administrative oversight of events on their respective tours as well. The board of directors of the new WGT will include Al-Rumayyan as chairman and Monahan as CEO. The WGT's board will also include an executive committee comprising Al-Rumayyan, Monahan, Hurley, and PGA Tour Policy Board member Jimmy Dunn. The full board will be announced at a later date, and it is anticipated that all three founding members will have representation. All parties will work in the months to come to finalize terms of the agreement, with details to be announced in due course. So, there's a lot to unpack here, but the main takeaway I have from this is, so yes, the PGA Tour will largely not change for now. Mm-hmm. The question is, it seems like what they're saying is that this puts the PIF, the Public Investment Fund, the Saudi money, basically, in charge of financing the situation. And that, I think, is going to be the thing that worries a lot of people who are in the organization, fans of golf, and sports fans in general, because they will eventually be the ones that are slowly pushing all of these organizations in a direction and may someday eclipse those independents, that independent vibe of the PGA Tour.
All right. So there's two minds here that kind of tear at me when this deal came out as to how this is going to play out.
Yeah.
So we're going to play the first mind here in the non-business format, basically in the casual, the fan, how it impacts directly.
Right.
And that is that players on the PGA feel like they got screwed.
Yeah.
The players who left the PGA and took the money to go to LIV Golf were immediately banned and saying, you're not coming back. Like you will never, like you're basically banned from the PGA.
Right.
PGA came out last year at the same time and said, we will not take Saudi money. Anyone who takes Saudi money is a disgrace to their country.
Yeah. So do you think this was a hostile takeover?
I think this is we have infinite funds and just put a number on the check and cash it.
But again,
from on a hand.
But that's what I'm saying. A hostile takeover is because you can do that, but also do it menacingly. And I think that had to be the case, right? Because this is such a pivot.
Well, that's why they're calling this. This is not the PGA. This is not LIV Golf buying PGA. It's not PGA buying LIV Golf. This is a new entity that will oversee both of them.
Here's the thing, though. That's often a cover-up.
Yes.
That's often a smokescreen that the larger, more powerful companies uses to say, "Oh, we didn't take over. This is a merger. This is a new entity."
That's why they're calling it a parent company. But guess what? Even parents have a favorite child.
Because the money.
And guess which one is the favorite child here?
Because
the one with the legacy and all the awards, or money?
It's the money. It's always the money, and the ones with the money are the Saudis here, and it's ultimately going to turn people off.
It's also not going to take very long for the PIF governor, Yasir, who joins the PGA policy board. How long until he influences the other members of the policy board to quote unquote retire and then fill those seats with people of his own doing?
It's so interesting that one of our
let the fox in the hen house.
Yeah. It's interesting that one of our stories from earlier in the year was like, oh, are these guys going to buy wrestling?
Yes.
And yet here we are talking about them buying golf. I mean, again, this is not all professional golf in the United States. There are still the Masters, which is a separate thing.
The Masters is its own thing. The Masters is its own tournament. It has never been associated with the PGA.
Right.
The Masters is an invite-only tournament.
So there's still, if you want to avoid this, there are still ways to get your golf on with avoiding walking into the muck here.
Yes. That being said, because it is a invite-only, they will be inviting people who, by one way or another, are taking Saudi money.
So what is the second thing that you said of your two things?
So my second set is that it's a business.
Well, yeah.
Yes. Well, as our motto here, our unfortunate motto at times, it's a business. So they're creating a new parent company. This can be seen, and this kind of merger has happened before with two competing brands. Although it happened about 54 years ago when there were two competing professional football teams in the U.S.
Yeah.
The National League and the American League.
Right.
And they decided to hostile takeover merge into a single corporation, the NFL.
Yeah.
Now here we are 50 years later and celebrate the NFL.
Except I feel like it's a different situation because
of where the money comes from
one
and
of them
who's
is
backing
an international entity. That was not the case for football, obviously. I feel like that's why the vibes are off here, is because you're right. It feels like a huge pivot change, like a pivot for the PGA Tour, who were talking a big game,
especially
about
last year,
not trusting LIV Golf and the entity that funded it. And so all of a sudden now you see oh, well, there's nothing we could do. It's too late. And yeah, I won't blame the golf, the actual professionals here for being what the hell?
Yeah. Well, see, with the NFL, I think that's where it's going to go, to where this overseeing company is going to be okay, some of you will play over here, some of you will play over here. We'll draft and swap people every 2 or 3 years. But it'll have the retention of that of the NCAA, where each division of the PGA and LIV will act similar to Pac-12, SEC, ACC, Big Ten, where they're going to schedule their own in-conference games, but adhere to NCAA rules and tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just one of those things we're just gonna have to wait to see the effects of as it goes on. As you mentioned, if the people from on the board from the Saudi Arabian side start kind of throwing their weight around and changing things, even though supposedly the PGA Tour is independent, like still under the rules of this. How independent is I think what we'll see, and how that's stretched over time.
Right, especially since you have your governor. The governor is now the chairman from PIF, is now the chairman of the WGT.
Yeah.
Even though he still answers to the board of directors, which is made up of the PGA. How long are they going to last there until they? What's a better term of saying get Khashoggi from Saudi Arabia?
Oh no! Oh God, it's too late. You already ruined it.
I'm just saying that you're literally, as I mentioned, let the fox in the hen house. You know what they do.
Well, yeah, I wasn't gonna go there. But yeah, it's worrying in a few ways, and there's a lot of
the money worth
questions. I don't know, but ultimately, it didn't seem like the PGA Tour had a choice. Is the vibe I get here?
No, you're wrong. The PGA Tour policy board and board of directors had a choice. The PGA players had a choice, as they found out at the exact same time as everyone else found out, which is like through Twitter when they announced it.
All I know is this is going to be a fascinating 30 for 30 in a few years.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's move on.
No, we don't have to wait a few years.
Oh, wait.
Just watch Full Swing Season 2 on Netflix, because that is still filming.
All right.
And we'll go through this.
We'll go through the live in person then. All right, let's move on. We spent a lot of time on that story.
It's a huge story.
It is a huge story. You're right. We'll probably talk about it, like you said, later in the year.
Yeah, once they actually put a name to the entity, once they establish the actual rules for it. But right now, they're in agreement for a merger, terms to be finalized.
All right. Well, there's still a lot to talk about, because our second story is also a pretty big one in the world of television and in the world of film as well. The SAG-AFTRA, which is the Actors Guild, have overwhelmingly voted to authorize a strike themselves before negotiations began on Wednesday. The vote comes as the WGA strike enters its sixth week. Many SAG-AFTRA members have already joined WGA members walking their picket lines. The leaders of both guilds have expressed solidarity with each other several times this year. If SAG-AFTRA goes on strike, any remaining film and TV production would halt immediately. The union represents 160,000 performers. SAG-AFTRA is pursuing an agenda that includes restrictions on the use of artificial intelligence, higher streaming residuals, and limitations on self-taped auditions. SAG-AFTRA began negotiations with the major studios on Wednesday, and the two sides have already agreed on one thing, that they won't be talking to the media about any of it. In a joint statement, they said, quote, "Today, SAG-AFTRA and the AMPTP began formal negotiations for a new contract, and with the agreement that neither organization will comment to the media about the negotiations during the process." So this now has a timeline or like a ticking clock assigned to it. So it's only a matter of time until that silence breaks, when we found out that there's not a deal and a strike begins, or that there is a deal and they avoid a strike.
I mean, we'll talk about the DGA in movies here.
Yeah.
But yeah, this continues as could be a three-pronged strike for Hollywood of the writers, the actors, and the Directors Guild, because all members of the three guilds have voted this year, approved of strikes, and not just like in a 60-80%. These have been like overwhelming 97% approve of the strike,
and I think,
as a bargaining power.
Yeah, and it's a smart move, because the studios think they're smart with the writers. They think like, oh, well, we can just pivot to reality content. We can just pivot to this and this and this. There's ways to avoid programming completely halting through a writer's strike. But an actor strike is harder, because you lose a lot more stuff if suddenly there's no actors to use and union actors to use. You'd have to go non-union. You'd have to really push the reality stuff.
You have to get unknown people to host. Yeah, you can't get a celebrity host.
Right. There's a lot of questions about what if the actors pull out, what's left? There's the dregs of television, the dregs of film production. Like, what do you do?
reruns.
I guess so. Really push retro programming, I
Yeah.
guess. And then with the directors, then if that also drops, then what do you do there too? Because
then directors also drop on live television as well.
So it's going to be a real calling their bluff moment, I think, for the AMPTP, where it's like all of a sudden, if they really lose everybody, they're going to have to make deals, because if they don't, the entire industry shuts down.
And we'll get to what the DGA said, but yeah, we'll get there in a bit.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like a dual story here.
In the meantime, though, television's still happening, and we watched a couple of shows.
Yeah, we both watched two completely different shows.
Oh yeah, different ends of the spectrum here.
So I'll start with a new show on Disney.
Disney Plus.
Well, Disney Plus.
Oh, is it on Disney proper?
It's on Disney proper.
Oh,
cool. But it's in the same vein as the kind of staple that they've done in the past here, with like Star Wars Forces of Evil, Amphibia. What's the other one? Owl House. Currently on.
Oh, just ended.
We'll just end it. Yeah. This one, same tree, same focal point tree here, is called Hailey's on It. And yes, that is the play on Hailey's Comet.
That's funny.
Following a 14-year-old girl named Hailey as she and her best friend Scott embark on a quest to complete her ever-growing list of things to accomplish.
So kind of like a bucket list.
Yeah, but except she's been compiling this bucket list since first grade.
And she's not going to die anytime soon.
No. In fact, that's kind of like the whole point of the plot, is that in order to become the person who saves the planet, she has to, her journey starts by completing her list.
So this has Phineas and Ferb vibes to
A lot of Phineas and Ferb vibes.
Okay.
Except they're not creating stuff.
And also the age is scaled up a little bit.
Yes, they're not creating stuff, and they're mainly like, we're going on an adventure because I need to cross this off my list. Mm-hmm. Whether it's traveling to the last known location of a very greasy burger joint because you have a gift card for it.
Yeah.
To building and winning a sandcastle competition with your dad.
Well, and I think the Phineas and Ferb part to me is like the lower stakes, because you mentioned that, like, compared it to these other shows that are like big world-ending conflicts. You didn't mention she wants to, quote, save the world, but not from a huge like entity that's trying to destroy it or something. No. Well, it's more of like a metaphorical, like she just wants to be the best person she can be.
Well, no. There is an end of the world stakes, because in the pilot.
Never mind then. Throw what I said out the door.
In the pilot, a scientist who I am convinced is just her from the future.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
Comes back in time and to prevent her book from being destroyed, to say, you need to complete this book.
Oh.
Otherwise, the world will end via like a time dilation.
You kind of buried the lead there.
Well, I buried the lead because they bring it up in the pilot episode, and the show doesn't bring it up except for like 1 or 2 episodes that are currently released. Mm-hmm. Every other episode completely is devoid of like the future tech coming to thwart her plans.
Okay.
And it's just her fumbling through her list of trying to complete it.
So do you think this is going to be structured like kind of like Star versus the Force of Evil was, where it's like the first season eases you into the characters, the world, and is a little bit more fun kind of story of the week kind of thing, and then eventually we'll get into the plot stuff?
Very easily, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, okay, cool.
Where you're gonna, because like one of the, like at the beginning end of the first episode, spoiler not spoiler, like one thing on her list is, I got to kiss my best friend.
Aww.
But you're 14 and you don't want to do that.
Right, yeah, it's embarrassing.
Yeah. Because what if he does like it? What if he doesn't like it? Yeah. So
Kim Possible Ron Stoppable situation.
Exactly.
To bring up another Disney show that's kind of like this. Well, cool. It sounds like it's in a lineage of all sorts of different Disney animated stuff.
Yeah, very easily. And like, I watched 3 episodes and was immediately hooked by the end of that third one.
And I walked in while you guys were watching, and I was like immediately like, oh wow, this has a style to it. I really like the character design, and it seems like it's like it's like a really impressive look to it.
I forgot about the best part. The voice actors.
Oh, who's in it?
Moana.
What?
Lily Carvalho.
Wow.
Is the main actress.
Okay.
And Manny Machado?
Oh, Manny Machado.
Machado, yes.
Yeah.
Jason from The Good Place.
Wow. Huh.
They're your 2 leads.
That's awesome.
Oh, and then Sarah Chalk pops in as the scientist from the future.
See, that's the thing, is like they're not doing a good job marketing this because I feel like I would love this. I didn't know it existed until today.
Yes.
Well, I'm very excited to check this out now.
Well, and Lily Carvalho sings the opening.
Oh, that's fun.
And third episode, there is a musical version where it forces her to sing.
Okay, come on. Okay, who's out there catering directly to me?
Oh no, I'll cater even better for you.
All right, what?
The town that this takes place in, Oceanside.
No, it's semi-local.
Yes.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And they make references to both San Diego and San Clemente.
All right. Okay, sure. Why not? Yeah, this sounds great.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll definitely check this out.
Yeah. Called Hailey's on It.
Hailey's on It.
As like,
and now, is this an all-at-once drop, or is this going to be weekly?
The first 7 episodes are up on Disney Plus right now.
Yeah. Important note, The Ghost and Molly McGee also has a season still continuing, and it's getting better and better, too. I think it's having a stellar second season. So Disney still cranking them out, and I'm glad that they're working on it, because I feel like we're kind of in a low point over Cartoon Network. It seems like everything got canceled over there, and so it's interesting to see Disney keep funding this kind of animated show.
Yeah, it's also good to see like these kind of like both episodic and serial kind of combination shows that they do.
It's cool. I'm glad it lives on. I was worried. I think we talked about this last year. I was worried that kind of died out
with Amphibia.
I thought the Owl House was the last of its kind, but maybe this will keep the legacy going. Well, cool, very cool. Now, to pivot to something completely different.
Okay, so put your kids to bed from the cartoon from Hailey's on It.
This one's not for the kids. This one's not for the kids, but I don't know who it's for.
So I had the same thing when I talked about Euphoria. This is from the same creator.
So, okay, there's a little bit of background before I get into The Idol, the new HBO Prestige a series that they launched last week, technically. I believe.
Because it followed Succession, which ended.
The second episode will be this week. So, background information on The Idol. This is a brainchild of The Weeknd. And I guess soon we're just going to have to call him Abel.
Abel, yes.
Anyway, but yeah, and like you mentioned, co-created by Sam Levinson, the Euphoria creator. So this has had a bit of a tumultuous production background. And I'm only mentioning this part because it does actually affect the end result that we got. It originally had a showrunner who ended up walking off the set after pressure from both Abel and Sam Levinson trying to change the vibe of the show. There was a bunch of reshoots, there were rewrites. Basically, the thing that it started as is not what we end up getting. The final result seems to be the result of a hostile takeover of the show from the 2 male creators. And what we get is a show that does not have any idea what it actually wants to be. It is both a story about a pop singer who fell on some hard times. Her mother died of cancer, and her career kind of had a slump. She ended up having a mental health breakdown, went to some sort of rehab, has now emerged, and we're seeing her basically try to reboot her career. Her team is trying to start it all over again.
This is the Lily Rose Depp character.
Yes, this is the Lily Rose Depp character, Jocelyn, a one-name kind of Madonna-style character. And she's kind of placed in the position of she kind of has control over her image, but not really. Her team makes a lot of decisions for her. They get to curate what she sees and what she does, but she's trying as much as she can to control the image that she wants. There's a pivotal scene in it early on that's like, they're shooting some shots for the album cover. She wants to be topless, but there's a character and her team who's like, no, we have a writer that won't let you have nudity. And she basically pushes against this enough to get this guy removed from the shoot. That's kind of what she's trying to do. She's trying to like do a little bit of work to try to make the career she wants, even though she has all these people around her that are keeping things from her and like trying to direct her in a certain vibe. So you think on a surface level that, this is a show that has things to say about what it means to be in the pop industry, the music industry right now. It has comments, like it has stuff to say about mental health. You would think that. Like
taking from, like as we've seen with like Britney Spears.
Right,
recently.
Exactly. So,
that sounds like...
On paper, it's an interesting concept, right? The thing is that was probably what the show was supposed to be.
That's probably what it was pitched as.
Well, That's not the show that you get, because
Okay.
you have elements of that. You do get to see a little bit of that back and forth. The best moments of the show are these kind of like moments of like, oh, what's happening behind the scenes with this person's career. But it ultimately forgets about that and becomes a different show in the second half. And because I don't think it understands the main character enough. I don't think it understands the main character at all, because all that stuff is super interesting, but instead it just tries to push the shock value so much that it just eclipses all of that. For instance, the mental health plotline is immediately like sidelined by a line that one of the characters says about like trying to make mental, like saying that she believes that mental health is sexy, like unquote. One of the characters kind of is like, wait a minute, shouldn't we not like be glorifying this? Like she's actually a person who's fallen on hard times. And then a character basically pushes against that, speaking for Sam Levinson, and goes on, and it's at least what a lot of people think that this is basically speaking through this character and being like, well, no, it is sexy, and I'm going to tell you why, and no one's going to question me. And that's basically what happens. And then it's never brought up again. It's like, okay. So this show seems to believe this. It's not just a line that you're supposed to be like, oh, create Hollywood people. No, it actually seems to believe that no, like there's a line about like, oh, we don't want to cock block America. But it seems like the Euphoria guy actually believes this. It's like, no, he actually believes this. Like, we need to be pushing this like in the face of this, because other people are saying like, well, you can't be that edgy anymore. It almost feels like oh, that's too woke for me kind of vibe. And that vibe permeates this entire pilot, because that brings you into the second half, which is all the weekend, all the time, because his character shows up. She decides she needs a night on the town because, or Jocelyn does, because she's like stressed out by all the stuff in her career. And so she decides to go to the club. And at the club, she meets the...
That's how she calls it, the club.
No, I call it the club. Okay. They go to a club, and they meet the club owner, played by The Weeknd, who's absolute scuzzball. Fucking like rat tail, hairdo, awful. Like he's always has like some like chewing on something. He's like doing coke in the bathroom, just real scumbag. And of course, he asks her to dance, and they end up hooking up in a stairwell, and they're immediately bonded. And she likes this guy so much, is so impressed by something, I don't know, it's unclear, that she's like to her poor friend and assistant, who she mistreats through the entire episode. I feel so bad for this girl. Is like, I'm gonna ask him to come over. He comes over, and of course, she's like, oh, all these industry people don't want to tell me the truth. I know you'll tell me the truth because you're an asshole. He just goes, yeah, I guess I am. And I'm like, oh my God. It's such a, and he apparently has all this like, it's like, oh, well, pop music's important. I don't understand why you don't like it. And she's like, oh, but I want to change my song. I don't believe that my song actually is what the statement I want to make, even though the acting actually does not translate any of this. It's just she's saying these things, but they don't actually see a character there forming at this point. And so you're supposed to believe that he's actually going to be like, oh, I'm going to help you with your career. And so she plays a song for him, and he's like listening to it, and he's like, oh, actually, I think it's pretty good, but I don't believe you. I don't believe you actually are a freak and have sex, because I guess that like being like I'm a freak is a lyric in this song. And then of course it leads to of course they're going to have sex. It's like, of course they are.
Of course I'm going to show you that you're wrong.
But in the most ridiculous way possible. I'm not going to go into the details. Look it up or watch the episode if you actually want to know what they do. But it's the most like faux edgy, like kink like thing you've ever seen in the world. Like I don't want to get too blue here, but if you know anything about like internet, like, you know, conversations about kink and about like, you know, like the edges of like what are controversial things. I'm talking about
We've seen 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, exactly. 50 Shades of Grey, but maybe like a couple steps out.
Okay.
Like if you've been on the internet at all, nothing that happened in this episode will shock you. If you have an idea of what people are into and what kind of fantasies they may or may not have, about like, let's say things that edge on violence, but like, like relatively safe violence or threat or threats that people would say are more sexy than they are scary kind of thing. And everybody has their deal. None of this is shocking. Like, I think Sam Levinson thinks this is shocking because it's on television.
That's what I say. It's shocking because you're putting it to.
But is it?
To screen.
But is it? And that's why I have to ask him. And that is why I think that vibe of like.
I mean, that's what Euphoria was.
Right.
Like the first season.
The vibe seems to be, let's push it to what we think the limits are. And to hell with the actual like characters involved. Let's focus so much on the faux shock that you miss the opportunity to actually tell a compelling story about what it is to be in the music industry. And the most frustrating part about it is The Weeknd is in the music industry. If anybody was able to come in and be like, no, that's not how it actually is. This isn't an actual representation of how it is. It would be him, you would think. But no, it seems like the opposite is happening here. His complete control over the project seems to have moved it so it's this other thing that's not actually about the music industry at all. Apparently, and this is brief spoilers if you care at all about continuing the show, is the reveal ends up being is that he actually does have ties, after saying he doesn't, he actually does have ties to the music industry. In fact, he's like a weird cult leader. And this is not the first person that he's like kind of tried to rope into his weird dealings.
And thus the title, The Idol.
Yeah. It's kind of, that gives you that dual meaning, right? Mm-hmm. It's such a weird choice because it definitely feels like this project that started as one thing that's completely been derailed. And it's just not fun to watch. None of the characters are interesting. They're all kind of slimy in their own little way. I think you only really feel bad for the assistant character. Like, she seems to be the only person in this sea of like stereotypes. And yeah, like you don't want Jocelyn to succeed because she's not even that great of a pop star. There's no thing hooking you to be like wanting her to win. Like, you don't want her.
There's no like sad. Like, I mean, the best sad backstory is that she was someone and now she's not.
But you don't see any of that though.
They just tell you that.
Yeah, they just tell you all this. There's no actual visual representation of the person she used to be. We don't hear a song that made her famous. We don't see a video. Like, we see her doing a dance number for this new song. And she struggles with it because she's trying to like get her training wheels, like back up.
You want to show, don't tell. And they just tell.
There's no context to any of it. You're just supposed to be like, oh. And the Britney comparison, by the way, is apt. And the show knows it's apt because the show says it straight up. They have a character that says, oh, she's just like Britney. And I'm like, no, she's not. Like, there's so many different things. There's a lot of writing on the internet about this show right now. I recommend going check some of these articles out. I tweeted one last week about specifically that there's an opportunity for the show to tell a story about what it is to be a modern pop star. But modern pop stars aren't those aren't this sex focused, edgy kind of vibe anymore. They're Olivia Rodrigo. They're regular teenage girls that are telling stories about their lives.
They're
Taylor Swift. They're Billie Eilish. They're people that are making confessions about they're dealing with their internal struggles. It's not about I'm going to go to the club and dance sexy anymore. That's not the vibe. And I feel like the show has a fundamental misunderstanding of what pop music looks like in the modern age.
So instead of calling it The Idol, call it The Star is Reborn.
But that's the thing is like, it's not. I feel like even that remake of The Star is Born is a more accurate depiction of what it means to become a pop
star. More of a fast track, but
yeah. But it's more accurate than this. This is just such a weird. It just lives on a different plane of existence in which pop regressed 20 years. And I just don't understand where it's coming from. And I don't understand why The Weeknd, of all people, decided that this is the story he wants to tell.
Because he really likes Entourage.
And he really likes kinky sex, I guess.
He wants Entourage, but for the music industry. And that's how they sold it.
The last thing I'll say about
Entourage plus Euphoria on HBO.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say about it is I think this solidifies how I feel about The Weeknd, ultimately. Mm-hmm. We've said it multiple times on this podcast. He makes good music. He makes enjoyable, fun dance music that's interesting. It's well produced. And he has made some bangers in his time. But the persona of The Weeknd, I think, is his weakest part. I think he lets it take over sometimes, and it's distracting. I think this idea of The Weeknd as being this, this sex crazed kind of like I'll corrupt you kind of vibe, it's always been his thing. And I think here it is on its face that is what he's trying to show through the thing. There's a lot of weird quotes coming out lately about how he's like been so in this character that it's kind of taking over his personality. Mm-hmm. It's like kind of method acty kind of vibes coming off of The Weeknd right now, where he's like, oh, I was having trouble singing at my concert because I thought I was still in character and stuff like that. It's like where I kind of like half believe, half don't believe. And I don't know if this is all just PR for the show. And like, it's ultimately like, he's becoming one of those people to me where it's like, you're creating interesting things, but man, I just don't like you as a person. Like
separating art from the artist.
Yeah, he just gives me weird vibes, and this just really finalizes it for me. It's like, The Weeknd, I don't know about you, man. Like, you're really skeevy. Anyway, so if you want to watch something skeevy and weird and kind of borderline uncomfortable that may or may not have like an okay okay cinematography and okay music, which I think are his two like only like minor bright spots, but the rest of it is such a weird slimy mess that doesn't really understand where it's going to go, like, or what it wants to be. Maybe, I don't know, this is for somebody, but honestly I don't know who. Maybe just for Sam Levinson and The Weeknd. It really seems like they made it for themselves and they don't really care.
So do you think like watching it all at once, bombing it, binging it once it's all out?
Maybe, but I feel like that's going to be a lot of slime to ingest all at once.
I mean, I did watch Succession, so.
Yeah, I feel like if you've watched Euphoria, maybe you're prepared for something like this. But even Euphoria has, it seems like, characters that you want to succeed. I just don't feel like I want any of these people to succeed.
Well, that's how I felt.
Especially not Jocelyn.
That's how I felt the first episode of Euphoria, right. Too.
Yeah,
so.
That's how I felt after the pilot of that, too. And that's why I knew that wasn't for me either.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. And it seems like it's only going to get weirder, judging by what I know what's going to happen in the future.
All right.
I don't know.
Well,
it seems like
we're hitting our 2-hour mark here.
Yeah, we are.
Like I said.
Yeah.
So let's see anything else to talk about that?
No, that was pretty much all this week. So we can move on to cancellations and renewals.
What am I no longer watching?
I'll do cancellations first. You're no longer watching Perry Mason on HBO. That's been canceled after 2 seasons. You are also not watching I Love That For You on Showtime, as it's been canceled after just 1 season. The Grand Crew has been canceled after 2 seasons on NBC. Young Rock finally comes to its end after 3 seasons on NBC.
In also with those NBC, the other one, American Auto, still up in the air, but probably should hear something next week.
On the bubble. And then renewed this week, Somebody Somewhere gets a 3rd season on HBO. And Sullivan's Crossing on CW will get a 2nd season as well.
That 1st season will air in the fall. It's I'll say British Columbia. It's a Canadian show.
Yeah.
But they already ordered a 2nd season.
All right, there you go.
Because they got rid of everything else.
Yeah, part of CW's pivoted to, Not sure
pivoted to CW, Canadian well-being.
Yeah, maybe. Moving into deaths, we have 3 to talk about here. Norma Hunt, owner of the Kansas City Chiefs, also known as the only woman to attend all current Super Bowls.
Yes, especially since the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl, and they literally just visited the White House earlier this week.
Yeah.
But yeah, Norma Hunt. If that last name sounds familiar, that's because she is the daughter, I want to say, of Lamar Hunt, who is the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the original founders of the NFL. The Lamar Hunt Trophy for the AFL winner, AFL conference winner, is named after him.
So will the Chiefs remain in the family?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, wrestler The Iron Sheik was age 81. Iranian-born Hall of Fame wrestler, wrestled in the AWA and, of course, the WWF.
Saw a lot of people.
Yeah.
Pour out for the Iron
Sheik. Definitely one of the more beloved wrestlers of that 80s, kind of that 80s era, that peak era for wrestling. And then, Pat Robertson died age 93, religious podcaster. You know who it is.
The 700 Club.
The 700 Club guy.
Yep, he's now part of the 6 Feet Under Club.
Awful dude. All right, let's move on to the movie section and our last section today. And we always start with weekend box office numbers. Your number 1 movie is, of course, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Huge $120 million domestic open. That is the second best opening of 2023. Congratulations to
completely
Spider-Man.
blew out its original the Into the Spider-Verse opening weekend.
Yeah.
Which, how to look back at that number, $34 million.
That was a slow burn. That was a word of mouth movie.
Yes.
This is not. This is a break the doors open. Everybody knows it's going to be amazing.
Yep.
Number 2, The Little Mermaid made another $41 million. That's at 186. Number 3, The Boogeyman, $12 million this week, debuting. Number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 with $10 million, adding to its 323 total, and still underperforming at number 5. Fast 10 with only a $9.5 million week. That's only at 128.
So yeah, you have Across the Spider-Verse with 120 million
in one week.
In one weekend, and Fast X at 5-6 weekends now.
You know, they were talking big game about making this a trilogy of
an ending for Fast X.
Does it happen now? I mean, it's doing
still
well internationally, but the domestic box office is a huge difference.
Well, I think because people like here either are burned out fatigue.
Yeah, I think they burned out.
Or they know that it's not going to end, it's going to end on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, but so does Spider-Man, as you discussed.
Yes.
So maybe not. I don't know.
But that's the thing. I don't think a lot of people know that they are making a sequel, an already announced sequel. It's something for us.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because you see Fast 8, Fast 9, Fast 8, you say, oh, they're just going to keep creating more of these. Probably not realizing that, oh, no, we're going to end the franchise here.
Yeah.
Because they always have to have one last ride for the past 4 rides.
Yeah. Diminishing returns, I think is what you would say. Upcoming this week is finally The Flash. After all the pomp and circumstance, the controversy, all of the talks about the DCU, and it just all comes to a head here. Finally, The Flash is out.
All the hype of it saying it's the best DC film. Go see it. It finally comes out for people to watch. And coming out to some middling reviews.
Yeah, I think that's the vibe. I think ultimately it was always destined to do that.
The one review I saw was like, it's the best thing DC's put out, but it's being anchored by all the worst things DC has put out.
That checks out. But as a bit of counter programming, you also have The Blackening. What is The Blackening besides what I like with my chicken?
It is I want to say it's a horror comedy about like black stereotypes in horror films.
Okay, I see. Well, that's completely different than The Flash, at least.
Yes.
So there you go.
But also not related in which like a scary movie or like the Wayans Brothers.
Yeah, it's a separate kind of thing.
Yeah, it's its own new thing.
Well, there you go.
Other than that, Transformers Rise of the Beast currently
still
out,
yeah.
if you want to go watch it.
All right, let's move to our first story.
I want to bring up though that I did see the ending teaser post-credit scene for Transformers Rise of the Beast.
Oh yeah, does it tease the next thing?
It teases a weird thing. I think I should spoil it.
I don't think you should spoil it because I think that there are probably somebody listening to this who's going to be mad at you.
Okay, it's going to go into a direction that I don't think anyone realizes that it's going.
Okay.
Because it's weird if this is supposed to be like a sequel, a reboot, or a prequel.
Oh, I see. Okay. So are there maybe some characters from a previous incarnation of the story that reappear?
There's some characters from a previous incarnation of a story that get brought up.
What?
Yeah, I'll tell you off because I know you don't want.
Yeah, tell me off.
I'll tell you after.
I just don't want to. Somebody's out there somewhere that wants to see this. I don't want to spoil it for them.
And if you do, please email us that I spoiled it for you.
Fair enough. All right.
mediabopodcast@gmail.com.
Yes. Before we do that, let's move to our movie news this week. Our first story is, as we mentioned, about the Directors Guild of America. They also have announced a tentative agreement actually on a new 3-year contract, which makes them different actually than the other 2 guilds.
Well, it's not finalized yet.
Right. The agreement includes wage hikes and a 76% increase in international residuals on the largest platforms, according to a DGA summary. It likely won't bring the labor peace the studios and streamers are looking for, but it brings even more attention to the WGA, whose strike is in its 2nd month. During a Zoom meeting to explain the deal to membership on Thursday, DGA leadership justified the timing of the pact, stating, quote, "We went as late as one could go with our window." Guild negotiations team members acknowledged that the union did not get everything it wanted, including a guaranteed additional promotional run and expansion of the DGA's jurisdiction beyond the US and Canada. Quote, "But the things we didn't get, we'll get next time around," unquote. One dual DGA WGA member said that while the foreign residuals increase was solid, the annual pay increases did not make up for inflation and the union's deal made during the 2020 COVID-era negotiations, adding, quote, "We need to tie our compensation to the success of our work. The leverage we had was historic, and the negotiation committee and the DGA leadership squandered it." So, as these things go, you're not always going to get everything you want in these negotiations, but it seems like the DGA was more successful than the other two guilds, at least getting a foothold of the kind of thing that they want.
Depends on what you mean by success and whose success, because what the DGA board did was went up to the 11th hour before the strike was to be enabled and came back and said, hey, here's the deal that they're presenting us. We're going to now put it to a vote to our members. That will happen in the next week, or this upcoming week, rather. So now there's several days here where they're going to go back and forth between the members of will it be ratified for their new deal, or what may end up being the case is that the majority will not ratify it. They will reject this offer.
Right.
And then we have DGA joining the WGA on strike, while the SAG, AFTRA, as we just mentioned, are still in negotiations.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions, I think, going forward for all the kilts and whether or not these other shoes will drop.
So right now, the AMPTP have presented a tentatively accepted deal to the DGA, but the members ultimately are the ones who have to accept the deal or not.
Well, when do we know when that decision will be made?
It's a week, so they have a week before the next vote.
So by Thursday, we'll probably hear something.
Yes. Let's see here. What else? I saw something else about this I was going to mention. So the DGA is not just main directors. There's also assistant directors, D1, D2, so on and so forth, that are affected with the DGA. So you may see a split here with the big names accepting the deal just to get back to work, and TV film directors, and TV directors, smallers rejecting these kind of
and you know what,
these kind of ratification.
And the TV guys probably outnumber.
Oh yeah, they definitely did.
So that's going to be interesting to see what the balance is.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see what the vote is on this.
Well, only a matter of time until we find out if all entertainment as we know it is somehow shut down.
Because that's what we need to keep reminding ourselves, is that Directors Guild is not just film directors; it's all media directors.
Yeah, so we'll see. Hey, if there's no TV to watch, hey, that's just more Diablo 4. That's all that is.
What if that means that sports gets discontinued because you can't broadcast it? No directors, no technical directors.
I guess so. Yeah.
Weird.
Oh no. What happened?
Streaming.
Radio it is.
Radio it is.
Listen to your radio.
Or attend your local games.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's move on to our second story in film today, which is about the sequel to Gladiator. Yes. So, Best Picture winner Gladiator.
2000.
Yes.
000. Not in the 2000s.
23 years ago.
Yes. Best Picture winner Gladiator.
Well, there's going to be a second one.
So you know how we're talking about how there's a bunch of strikes going on right now?
Yeah.
How people are mainly studios are looking to go overseas for productions because they don't want to be interrupted by any type of strikes going on here in the U.S.
Yeah. Well, one of those film sets is the set of Gladiator 2. But there's been bad news coming out of that set, as several crew members were injured on the Morocco set of the sequel to Gladiator on June 7th while filming a stunt sequence for the action film. A total of 6 people received treatment, 4 of whom remain in the hospital. All of the impacted crew members were treated for burn injuries, according to an individual with knowledge of the production. 2 other crew members were treated locally and then discharged. The sequel to the 2000 epic stars Oscar nominee Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, Denzel Washington, and Connie Nielsen. Ridley Scott, who directed the first film, is returning behind the camera, with David Scarpa writing the script. The spokesperson for Paramount added, quote, "The well-being of the cast and crew is of the utmost importance to us, and we have strict health and safety procedures in place on all our productions." Not so strict as it sounds like it. "We will continue monitoring the situation and taking all necessary precautions as we resume production." Oof, boy, you don't love when that happens when a bunch of stuntmen get hurt. It's like what the hell? What was the procedure? Like what was supposed to be watching this?
This feels like Paramount trying to cut corners.
Yeah.
I mean, not just because they're setting it in Morocco, because you need a desert scene for Sword and Sandals.
Yeah.
But
the thing that you kind of cut corners when it's not a U.S. Union
or
production.
Go around non-union production. I mean, we saw that last year with Rust, and it purposely shooting in New Mexico to try and.
Well, New Mexico is in the United States.
Well, yeah, but but outside of like the Hollywood,
right,
where you can maybe try and get away with skirting production.
Yeah. A lot of questions about like what procedure didn't get followed, who is ultimately responsible, what things were not in place.
Bird injuries probably mentions fire, out of control blaze.
A lot of questions, but ultimately we hope those stunt performers recover, and that the rest of the shoot goes without a hitch, because that's just that's scary.
Well, that's the other side of this, is that even though we are in the middle of like several strikes happening, there is still production happening overseas that isn't
not yet affected. Obviously, all those actors will stop acting once if SAG-AFTRA.
Also, I don't know who the casting director is, but to get Paul Mescal and Pedro Pascal on the same roster,
great job. Good job. It's fun to say.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the last thing today. You have some thoughts about something you watched movie-wise.
Yes. I watched Avatar: The Way of Water on both Max and Disney.
We already talked about that.
Okay, well, it's available on both Max and Disney.
No, a new release.
Yes, about a story that we kind of covered when it first went into production 2 years ago. Flamin Hot, the story of the Flaming Hot Cheeto.
Yes, the story of the Flamin Hot Cheeto. More specifically, the guy who created the Flamin Hot Cheeto.
Yes, and this is directed by Eva Longoria.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes, that Eva Longoria.
Right.
And is a interesting biopic. I feel like it takes a lot of liberties in its storytelling.
Sure.
Make
it more entertaining.
Well, one, to make it more entertaining, and two, especially when you have an 8-year time jump.
Yeah.
Right after your first act, just to get the ball rolling, to establish like, hey, he's been here for 8 years.
Okay.
And now, like, he's like, just to like, it's like, give that sense of like, he's not just some guy coming into the factory and then all of a sudden like is hit with like, oh, like I had this idea of how to save the company,
right?
Like how to save the factory, which is what it's originally about. It's based off a book, Flaming Hot, the story of a boy, a burrito, and a Cheeto.
Good.
But it's fine. It's definitely not a direct one-to-one biopic. It definitely takes a lot of liberties, especially when it does a boardroom scene and has the voice of God narration over it from the main character of like, this is how they really talked. But it's like, okay, but like we're gonna like dumb it down like how they actually probably talked.
Right.
But for a dramatic effect, it's fine. It's definitely an interesting story. It's definitely a very American story, like a rags to riches, of a American dream coming true, of like we put everything on the line here and ultimately like ended up with the success. And so can you if you come up with the next great idea, the next great Flaming Hot Cheeto idea.
It is interesting right now. We're kind of in a weird zone where there's a lot of movies like this all coming out at once, about stories about how a product was made. Like we just had Air.
Yes. We had The Founder a couple years back.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like that predated the trend a little bit. But like,
I feel like that kind of started.
Maybe. But I feel like it's happening more now than ever before, and this is just another example of it.
Well, like all these films though are based off of books,
Right? Yeah.
which are based off of real life events too.
So if you think that, so basically anybody who's like curious about the story, this is like a neat little thing to check out.
Yeah.
If you love Flamin' Hot Cheetos,
if you like Flamin' Hot Cheetos and want to see like where like the boon of Flamin' Hot came,
yeah,
it's fine. There's nothing like too like outlandish, I feel like, in it, but at the same time, it does lean heavily into a lot of liberties taken into making this thing.
Okay, because yeah, like I don't love a Flamin' Hot Cheeto, but it seems like it's fascinating story.
When your ending is, and then everybody clapped.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's on Disney Plus and Hulu, you're saying?
Yes, it's on both.
Okay.
So if you have one or the other, it's there.
Okay. Anything else movie-wise?
Nothing else for me.
Yeah, not
like I said, Avatar. If you want to watch 6 hours back to back.
No, I do not.
Disney Plus also has a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff of Avatar, making of Avatar: Way of Water. So if you want to spend another 10 hours, not on the movie itself, but on the production,
oh, Lord,
it's there.
Anyway. All right. So that'll do it then. We don't have a fan question this week, so that means we can wrap up.
Well, we're already 15 minutes over, so let's wrap it up.
Thanks for watching and or listening to the Media Vote podcast this week. We will be back next week for another episode where we'll have even more thoughts and news for you. In the meantime, you can catch us on all sorts of sources. If you want to see our videos, you can go onto YouTube, search Media Vote Podcast, find our channel, like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications when we stream live. You can also hear us in audio form on podcast services such as Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Put in Media Vote Podcast, and you'll find our podcasts there. Podcasts. You can also find us on the internet, MediaVotePodcast.com. You can find us on social media at MediaVoteCast on Twitter, Facebook, search Media Vote Podcast. Twitch.tv/MediaVote is where we stream video games. You can watch me playing some Diablo 4 from Thursday. I will be streaming some Street Fighter 6 on Tuesday. You can watch Mike's playthroughs of Humanity also on there. Also, we will start archiving my Rock Band streams as well. There was a selection on our back end that apparently was prohibiting those from being archived.
Okay.
Because it was like, basically there's an option. It was like, don't archive anything that has copyrighted audio. That was checked. And so it wasn't archiving any of my streams. So I was like, you know what? We'll take the risk.
Okay.
No one paying attention to us. So I didn't check that. Honestly, the worst thing they could do is to take down. And like, that's fine.
Hey, the worst thing they could do is give us a Streisand effect.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, those will be archived from now on. I'll probably jump in maybe on Thursday then, and maybe do, I don't know. We'll see how I'm feeling, because I'm really enjoying those Rock Band streams.
All right.
But yeah, so stay tuned to twitch.tv/media for all that. And last but not least, if you have questions for us, recommendations for what you want to see us stream or watch or talk about, questions you have just about general things, we'll be happy to answer them here on the podcast. Just email them to mediavotepodcast@gmail.com. Shout out to, I guess, one of our listeners who interacted with my tweet about our tweet about Diablo, streaming Diablo.
Yeah, apparently there was a queue to get into Diablo.
Yeah. Oh, man. There was a real lousy server situation. I talked about it at the beginning of my stream. But, yeah, the servers crashed during the
like initial days.
Summer Game Fest stream. It was like right when they started showing Final Fantasy, the servers completely crapped out. I wasn't able to get in for the next like 2 hours. Yeah, it was like a few times went off the charts, and it was just erroring me out. So yeah, just be heads up if you're going to get into Diablo 4. Yeah, I didn't mention this earlier when I talked about it. The one big downside of that game is it has to be online only, and if you disconnect at all, you're just thrown out of the game. Apparently, this is bad if you're doing the hardcore mode, because death is permanent in that mode. And apparently, if you get disconnected, you just straight up lose that character.
Well, your character will just stand there and eventually
just go poop. Okay. And so, yeah, it's bad news. So, yeah, hopefully they're working on that server stability. But I'll talk about that more probably next week. We're gone for now. See you guys, and have a good week.
We'll be back next week with more news, more thoughts, and more of us.
Bye.
All right, bye. No one joining on the stream.
That's fine.
That's fine.
It happens.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.